What's going on? 6 o'clock. Good morning. Happy Friday from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Huge stinker to close out Thursday night football for the year as the Seahawks take down the Bears 6-3. It is the fewest number of points in a victory this year in the NFL, and also for Seattle as a franchise. Caleb Williams found a little bit of momentum late, driving when faced with a 4-10 toss interception on Seattle's 22-yard line to end the game. Seahawks move to 9-7 and need a little bit of help to get into the playoffs. They'll be watching the Rams-Cardinals game tomorrow night intently. Titans getting ready for their final road game of the year. Taking a look at Thursday's injury report, Tyler Boyd, Nick Folk, Amani Hooker, Dylan Radins, and Otis Reese all remaining. Sideline for the Jaguars, left tackle Walker Little, Darnell Savage, Ventrell Miller, and Devon Hamilton also missing from the practice field. We got a crazy bowl game last night as Toledo took down Pittsburgh 48-46 in 6 overtimes. Tonight, you can watch the Syracuse Orange taking on Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Friday morning and the band is back together again on RKW, a Friday, December the 27th. It feels, I don't know, kind of like a Tuesday, kind of like a Saturday, maybe a little bit of a Friday energy. 615-737-1045 for the first time in weeks. The four of us are back together in the same room again. Robert Walsh at the controls, Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. Titans and Jags on Sunday, the final road trip of 2024. Just like you heard Robert Walsh tell you, coming up this weekend, we've got transfer portal things to talk about. Up in Knoxville, a lot of guys either entering the portal or rumored to be entering the portal. We'll talk with Brent Hubs about that at 7:20. 6:02 in America's Music City. Good morning. How are we doing?
Good. Right back at it,
morning,
man.
yeah.
Right back at it. Friday.
The gang's back together. I did not know Bert was back today. For some reason, I thought he was out the week, so that was a nice little late Christmas
Merry
gift.
Christmas.
Right?
That is a delightful sight. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna disclose your vehicle out there because I know you're very popular in these streets and everything. So when I saw the black vehicle parked out front, I said,
Right.
my boy.
He's back.
That's all I was thinking, man. It's like, he back. That's
The
all
house
I was
smells
wondering.
the same. You guys kept everything the same since I went. I feel like a college kid that went to school, came back, and all my trophies are still on the wall. All my
Right.
stuffed animals still on the bed.
No,
That
that's
was
a good
always
thing.
a weird scene, wasn't it?
Things tend to not always smell the same in some of the rooms in this building, so I'm glad to learn that they do.
Oh, y'all want me to put a black cloud over this?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Unless you're me and you go home and your double wide trailer is repossessed.
Don't do that.
It happened.
That's a sad story.
It happened. It was a sad story, okay? Lost
Dang.
all my
Was that
recruiting
during the
letters.
holiday season?
Nah, it was right before summertime. Like,
Okay.
it happened in the spring. And my mama moved. They got separated, divorced, and the trailer got repossessed. I guess if you're supposed to be
Damn.
paying the bills and you're not paying the bills as a husband, this is what happens.
This is what happens.
Yes, my stepdad. He was all right up until that point.
Then
Hey, you were cool until you let the
reassessed.
house roll off, man.
Exactly.
I don't really appreciate that.
You
Yeah.
know, I didn't even know you could repossess a trailer. I was like, did you just pull up and like hitch it and just roll it out into the streets?
I guess so, right?
That's what happens. The most ticked off I was about, the thing I was most ticked off about was all my high school pictures. Like, I had like prom pictures and everything, but it was my recruiting letters.
Dude, that's wild. You couldn't even go in and get any of your stuff.
I was debating on, like, do I go to the place that it was taken from, which I didn't know, or I was, in my mind, I was ready to go to a landfill.
Sure.
I was so ready to go to a landfill, but at that point, it was just like,
That's when investigative mode needed to be built. Because now you're investigative mode.
Yeah, man.
You investigate everything.
Them handwritten notes from Coach Cutcliffe and Coach Former are gone. Gone. But, hey, welcome back. Merry Christmas, Bert.
Yeah. Hey, Bert.
I asked y'all if y'all want me to put a black cloud on it.
How was your Christmas?
Today's generation just has those in email form.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the letters are still sent because when college football programs can spend money on 16-year-olds, they will. So you still have, the shiny, I'm sure there'll be holographs in 5 years where you could send a letter in the mail and a coach will just stand up. We want you to be a Marshall Thundering Herd. Go Herd. And, that'll probably be a thing. But for now, it's just emails.
It is. I'll never forget, like, every evening about, like, 5:30, 6 o'clock, the phone would ring, like the house phone. My mom used to get so tired of them coaches calling. It's like, boy.
Bet.
And then I had to get a separate line. Like, it was the same phone, but different, like, phone number.
you had
and
your own.
It rang, like, 2 times before if it was my line that was being
that's
called.
funny.
Oh, my gosh.
Probably didn't hate the calls as much as Michael Orr's mom.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow.
Just to it.
Missed
In the
it.
blind side. Who was your first recruiting mail from?
My first recruiting mail, it was.
I remember mine.
Man, it's going to blow your mind. It wasn't even for football. It was for basketball.
Okay.
Really?
Binghamton College in, like, New York.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. You've always
Binghamton.
loved New
Teams
York,
come out of the
by way.
woodwork.
I was a hooper. At least I
Wow.
thought.
That's impressive. Well, I mean,
Brent Spears.
Binghamton thought you were.
No, Binghamton, and then football wise, it was I said Tennessee State.
Oh,
Tennessee
TSU.
State, yeah, they came in
Nice.
tough. They
Mine
did.
was UNC Asheville.
UNC.
At
Yeah.
one point, University of Art. That's a real place.
a real thing?
University of
University of
Art sent me recruiting mail. So
Hold up,
they
University.
clearly had not seen my art, which was somehow even worse than my athletic ability in high school.
I mean, honestly, stick figures that get you paid these days with these
Well,
little
no,
Yeah.
cartoons.
Or just splashes of paint. you
Anyone
know?
have any ideas where? Oh, what's it? No, it's not called that. It's Art University is what it's called. Any guesses where that is?
Maine.
I'm gonna go Wisconsin.
Robert Walsh, any guess?
It's probably got to be somewhere boring like Cleveland or something.
Academy of Art is what it is
Okay.
called. I've gone all the way around this.
Okay, probably California then.
You would be correct.
Yeah. There you go. Put that academy
San
on it.
Francisco
Oh,
is
that's about
where
right. Okay.
Academy of Art is.
That's actually
Sounds
pretty
about
hilarious. How in the heck, respectfully, how in the heck did they find you?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Call the
not
Academy of Art Cross Country and Track Coach.
how the recruiting database
So they
work
did
right
have
there.
that. They had a cross country team and everything.
Oh, yeah, they're actually
Wow.
very good.
Wow.
Okay, well, I mean,
fairly. I think it's a D2, but it's pretty good.
Okay.
but still, they wanted
My
you.
sport was one of the sports, though, where D2 is better than D1 in a lot of ways.
Sure.
Why so?
I don't really know. I mean, I
Bad
guess
grade kids
I probably
go there?
should know, but you get a lot of international students that have these smaller programs that don't have football that are willing to spend a lot of scholarship dollars on cross country.
That
Okay.
makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. But yeah, those recruiting levels were dope, though. I ain't gonna lie
Yeah,
to
they
you, they are.
I bet.
I kept mine for a while, my first one.
Did you? Yeah, the text messages would have been like crazy though. Like in this era, like I'd throw my phone up
Oh, yeah.
against the wall probably
Yeah.
because I'm sure these coaches just
And they get
overkill.
lost in the mix. I feel like sometimes I don't get back to people because they get lost in like a bunch of texts. If you're busy at that moment and you're like, I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
get back to that person, then you're like, oh, shoot, 2 days later, I didn't get back to that person.
No doubt about it. Well, we definitely need to ask about recruiting when Brent Hubs come on here because I've
Yeah.
heard some rumblings and I know everybody else has too.
Brent Hubs of VolQuest at 7:20, voice of the Titans, Mike Keith at 8:20, and of course Ron Slay in the fourth hour. The game of football was set back 20 years last night. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Chicago Bears 6-3 as a game of Big Ten football broke out in Soldier Field. That was as sometimes a 6-3 game is really good defensive play. It's just hard nosed smash. This was not that.
It was not.
This was just bad football. Bad football. And honestly, the Ventures Bowl was great. So thankfully, we had
Yeah, it was.
Bowling Green and Arkansas State to enjoy instead.
There was also this the Penn State Toledo game that was on earlier that went into 6 overtimes.
Pitt, Toledo.
Pitt Toledo, that's what I meant.
yes,
And it was
yeah.
wild.
I'll get you
Like,
fought up there, getting those two confused.
They take it serious.
Yes, they
they
Pitt,
do.
excuse me. What'd I say, Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
You said Penn State.
Oh, I said Penn State. Sorry about that. It is still early and I'm clogged up. But Pitt, yes, and Toledo. It was wild. And I know there were some questions about earlier in the overtime just going for the 2 points before you have to go to 2 points in a situation. So I know like Narduzzi, I think his job is very safe. But it's like they kind of are just cool with just having it mediocre there at Pitt.
I mean, and that's the thing about it. They'll shock the heck out of you by how many people they put in the NFL, though, too. Like, Pitt's always got somebody in there. But getting beat by Toledo jumped out on them, though. Pitt looked like, I watched a second of that game early, like they just rolled the football out, which happens. And, of course, they're in the MAC, you know what I'm saying? And they probably expected that game to just be a rollover game. Toledo came ready.
They did.
Absolutely came ready to play on that one. 6 overtimes. That was one of the first times I got a push notification from ESPN.
Did you?
And I scurried over to the TV to actually turn it
worked?
on. Yeah, I scurried over to the TV to turn it on. Sure did.
We've been getting crazy overtimes in these bowl games. We already had in the Hawaii Bowl, South Florida and San Jose State 41-39, 5 overtimes.
That's right.
Oh, yes, sure in the heck did. I mean, these kids out here really trying to playing for portal status is what they got going on. Playing for portal status. But it was a good one yesterday from Pitt. Thoroughly enjoyed watching it whenever, and they was about to fight afterwards, which was a good game.
Oh, yeah.
If you know college football, you know that Pitt-Toledo rivalry really runs deep.
Super deep, super deep.
And that was in Arizona, too, of all places.
That one was not.
Oh, I thought that one was in Arizona.
That one was the Game
was
Above
Detroit.
Sports Bowl in Detroit. The artist formerly known as the Meineke Car Care.
Can't keep them straight.
Detroit.
Was it Kansas State and Rutgers?
Yes.
that was
another
one that
game.
was.
Okay.
A lot of football on.
Jeez Louise.
It was a lot of
Overtaking
fun.
my brain.
Yeah, we get a good bit of it tonight, too. Today, if I'm not mistaken, Big Vandy
starts at
playing.
11 a.m.
Yeah.
Vandy's at 2:30.
Jim Wyatt's making his way down there right after practice.
he?
Yeah. He was like, I'm going to make the trip. I was like, we'll be arriving right in time.
I'm telling y'all, Vandy, don't waste Jimmy Wyatt time.
Don't waste his time.
Don't waste his time.
Make it worth it.
He's a friend of the show, okay? All right? Don't waste Jimmy's time down there. No, I picked against y'all.
Yeah,
Do
you
not
did.
get the dub.
That's okay. If you want to lose your pick,
about
that's fine. 615-737-1045 is our number as we dive into our normal Friday morning routine. How much can your opinion of Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan still change over these next 2 games? What is meaningful about these next 2 games for the Tennessee Titans? That's next.
Is your concrete in need of repair? Maybe your sidewalk is shifting, your driveway is cracked and sinking, or your porch steps, have they moved? Shifting concrete can create a dangerous situation and trip hazard around your home. It's also just a big eyesore. It's Ramon Foston. Whatever's going on with your concrete, listen to me. Call United Structural Systems. Ask them about the polyurethane foam injections. That's right. You've heard about USS for a long time. It's the same company that's provided superior foundation repair and waterproofing to Middle Tennessee since 1994. They can also fix your sunken or settling concrete. USS uses polyurethane foam injection to lift and repair concrete in a matter of minutes. Lifted concrete can also be walked on immediately or even driven on after 30 minutes. So don't go through that long, expensive process of ripping out and replacing concrete. Reach out to the people that I know and trust. You can simply go to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com or call them at 615-488-7855.
Friday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will continues on 104.5 The Zone, 615-737-1045. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh makes the show happen. Has your opinion changed, guys, at all on keeping or not keeping the Titans coaching staff or front office?
Has mine changed? No, it has not. Simply because it's incomplete. As much change that you had in a first year, trying to figure out, what your scheme is going to look like with the players that you somewhat inherited. And all of this is stuff that happens when you take the job, too. You got to figure out what's going to work for you. Who are your types of players? We see college coaches do it often where we say, all right, wait till he get his players in, and those types of conversations right there. And I think people judge the NFL a little bit different because it's supposed to be the best of the best. Mm-hmm. Real pro tip, sometimes the best of the best is the back end of the best side of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, or the lower end of good. And it seems like that's what Coach Callahan has somewhat been dealing with this year. Now, look, it's not excusing him from, losing games. That is attached to his record. That's attached to his professional career moving forward. It's a matter of, all right, given another year, which I think you should keep, how and where does the change happen to come? And it's got to be more than just, hey, morale. Change and grace and perceptions of you is done by winning football games with real tangible things. And that's where you got to see it kind of change from, honestly, what Vrabel had it, if we being real about it, because this is biggest judge right now, is measuring stick is how he compares to Vrabel. At some point in time soon, there needs to be the looks of, this team needs to look like a Brian Callahan team, and that is passing the ball around. That is being explosive offensively from what we were hearing, and the quarterback play. So we hadn't seen it yet. So, yeah, I'm okay with giving him another year because it's not his players, and it's a very incomplete season starting with the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm definitely giving Rand and him another year. I'm not as heated on Rand and as, frustrated with Rand as other people are, and I can respect your opinions of those who thought he has made some not great moves, because they're not all going to be perfect. And I know free agency, you spend that money and maybe you did not get as much out of the guys that you wanted to, but injuries played into some of those, i.e. Quandre Diggs, who I thought was a great addition to this team. Lloyd Cushenberry, who I thought was a great addition to this team. Yes, your two cornerbacks have been banged up and injured, so maybe knowing they were injured before wasn't the best thing in terms of signing, but you live and you learn in those perspectives. As for the signing classes of his, I have been overall, I'm okay with them because he's at least started to hit on his first rounder. So I'm going to give Rand more time to build the base. Mm-hmm. As for Brian Callahan, guys, he comes in, everything's new. Yeah. He gets a turnover roster. It's not like he inherited players like Mike Vrabel did from Malarkey and what he had the year before. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of leaders on that team, too. That was the first year I covered that team.
Yeah, it was.
And it was different for Callahan. So I think you've got to give him, it's like our first day on the job, or year on the job, right? Yeah. You're not 100% yourself. You don't necessarily, you're growing into being who you want to be, where you are working. I feel like that's with Callahan, what he's got to do this year is just kind of believe this is who I want to be. This is what I'm going to do next year. But next year, you got to actually start to make the big improvements. And that's the thing. You got to almost make up for some lost time here.
I can see that.
What makes you believe in the process that this organization has right now?
What makes me
in order to keep it?
That's a great question, man. I know you don't hear that very often, Will. No,
thank you. Well, okay.
I figured I'd break the line a little bit.
Finish the holiday season.
I know that. What makes this a good process? You say though, is one, you had to start it off with something. Is where I'm at with it. Like the attempts that you made as far as the free agencies go, I think they were the right ones. You knew you needed a center. We knew that, right? You get rid of Aaron Brewer. You had to go get one. You got the best one in the market. The attempt to make this team better was good. You look at the draft picks. I am actually more in favor of the draft picks. I saw our guy Zach Lyons got flagged behind, delegating who was good and who wasn't in this last draft class. I actually do think Jalen Harrell, for what you're getting at the value, great pick for this team. And what you're asking to be a team's guy, a core guy, right? Mm-hmm. Look at Jarvis Brownlee. if he takes that second-year step, he's playing a whole lot. The same, I can go down the line. JC, yes, I'm okay with that one too. Like, you look at the guys that they have in the fold right now, and then on top of that, Tavondre. I even look at some of last year's draft picks. They're guys that can be sustainable NFL players for your team. And I think a successful pick for almost anybody is, one, you get a second contract that can help a lot. Or you get all 4 years out of those guys of production. And it seems to me that for the most part, barring injury, they're going to do that. Again, I think there were mistakes made when it comes down to, at least on the perception side of things with Rand and the front office and free agency. Signing it like injury, guys with an injury history, right? You don't want that to ever be true.
Because they might be good team guys,
exactly. And the thing is, let's go with L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah.
At least his isn't the actual knee.
Sure.
This is a new injury for a guy like him.
His quad,
and they've
right?
been adamant, of course, over there in the building about, this, he's not checking out on the team. This is a real injury. So if you're asking me why I believe in it, because they seem competent enough to find guys that should fit this team. I think a lot of this, and I don't want to necessarily all blame him, a lot of this has been the play of the quarterback, 1 or 2 plays, to really make it fold. I like the idea of surrounding him. They attempted it, and it just didn't happen this year.
Yeah.
I hate to say the quarterback is that important, but dang it, they are.
It is, and I think that's what maybe throws people off of this regime working because of the quarterback situation. When it's all said and done, I do feel like that was a kind of preempt situation where Brian Callahan came in, and again, I don't know this. This is just the conversation that I believe you had to have Amy, Rand, Brian when he was interviewing. Like, this is the quarterback we have right now. We spent a 2nd-round draft pick on him. We want to try to make this work. If that were the conversation, which it seems to be something around that, because that's who they gave the chance. And from the start of the year, that's who they said their quarterback was going to be. And they said they were going to do everything to try to figure out who he was. So I do believe the conversation was that when Brian came in to take this job, do you feel like you can help, develop him?
Yeah.
And maybe they weren't right for each other because it wasn't Brian's pick, right? And he's not the quarterback whisperer. I think sometimes we get that confused with him being an offensive mind, just because he's worked with quarterbacks. But I think you have to at least give him his chance to bring in his guy. And it might be a veteran for a year, right? Or they might go out and get someone in the draft if they are able to do that position-wise. But I do think that they are on the same page on a lot of other things other than, I think, coming in the quarterback was not what they were all on the same page about.
Here's my issue with the quarterback argument, though, now. Mason Rudolph has the exact same passer rating, completion percentage, and touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah.
It's not just Will Levis that's made big mistakes. So how much blame does Brian Callahan and his staff get for this offense not working? Because the Titans hired a quarterback guru coach to make their quarterback good. He didn't. And then now the backup also is prone to a lot of the same mistakes.
So here's the thing. Kayla, you had a conversation yesterday, you said, with Chigga Okonkwo, and I think it's very relevant. Kayla said the audio wasn't working, but what was your conversation between one quarterback, Kayla, because it was on record, you just didn't get it, that you can disclose to us from what he said compared to Will Levis and Mason Rudolph? Yeah,
because clearly the question right now is about, Mason Rudolph being the quarterback and how he has made certain connections with certain players on the team.
Yeah.
Chigga Okonkwo is one of those players. There's no doubt, especially when Mason's come in this year, they have found that connection.
Very friendly.
Most recently, too, Chig has been having past 2 games has really broken out of his shell. Hopefully he can continue that. But I just asked him specifically, what is it about Mason Rudolph that are you able to connect? You're able to kind of be the player that you want to be with him. And he simply said, Mason Rudolph gets the ball out quick. He makes decisions. And it just led me to believe that it made it easier for him to do his job. He says, we're not just sitting down there waiting for the ball. He gets the ball out. We're there in the right spot. So for me, I feel like, at least for Chigga Okonkwo, that's the guy that he's looking to that's saying, he's making me better.
Yeah. And so to answer your point about the stat line, I think it's 2 things that can be very true in this. One, Mason is very efficient in how he runs the offense. Also, Mason has an issue as far as reads and taking care of the football. Now, I've known this to be true. I've seen guys be put in positions where, I ain't gonna lie to you, we talked bad to a guy one time as a backup that was in with us because we were telling him, hey, this is what we do on this play. You can practice it, you can teach it, you can watch tape on it, you can see they've watched tape, and sometimes guys just mess up. Now, I know you say, well, coach them harder. Guys sometimes just make mistakes. You got Jameis praying to Jesus himself about stopping pick sixes, right? Like, the game sometimes take care of itself, and there's guys on the other end that make plays for their team too. So as it pertains to the quarterback play itself, you simply look at that and say, well, maybe they're just not good enough, right? And you just move on and cut bait from those guys. I'm not excusing Coach Callahan and not having the guys ready, but the way Mason got tricked this past weekend and throwing that pick against the Colts, that shouldn't happen in good quarterback play. There's levels to it, in my opinion.
Can I bring up something, too, that I realized when Mason's been in this year? Mason has still made some mistakes, like you said, but those are the games, too, that the defense or the special teams blunders have come up. And I'm talking major, issues with the defense last week against Indy, right? The rush game, Buffalo, and then the Detroit game, the Detroit game, where you would never know that, what the numbers really were because special teams gave up so much in terms of field position.
Very true. So great point on that one.
So here's the question. Can your mind be changed about keeping or firing Brian Callahan or Rand Carthon over the next 2 games?
Mine never wavered. As far as like keeping them in retaining.
Can it still change? That's the question. Can it still change over the next 2 games? I
still say no. This is mine. Because, all right, so if they can go down to I'll give a scenario. Go down to Jacksonville and lose 31-10. I mean, that conversation is going to be loud. It really is. And then if they lose here, even by a close margin to the Texans, like publicly, that narrative can change big time. In my personal opinion, I still say no. And here's why. The only thing that's going to fix this as far as any coach that chooses to take this job if Brian Callahan is let go is time. That's, in my opinion, only thing that's going to, because you don't have the weapons. The Barnwell piece yesterday, super young team is what he said was one of the positives. And to me, they're missing X plays in what he said, impact position, X players in impact positions. And that's where I think this team flaws are more than anything. Like, they really hadn't had a pick in the top 10 that's a game changer, like a quarterback, because you thought you had them for a couple of years when you were picking in the top 10. And now you look at, like, all the specific positions that you need help in. You're going to need another tackle. You might need another center going into next season, too, because of Lloyd Cushenberry. So the only thing that's going to save this team is time and patience, and that is hard to sell right now here in Nashville, Tennessee. So to answer your question, Will, no, mine is that he sticks, he stays, just based off stability and the idea that this wasn't a complete team with 1 or 2 injuries that happened this year, and it showed in a major way.
Yeah, I personally think nothing could change my mind about keeping him here. But because I feel like the team is what it is at this point, right? You know what the talent is or lack of. There is a lot more positions that are beat up. I mean, my goodness, for the linebacking core now, we're talking about playing Cedric Gray probably a ton of snaps now. David Long Jr. did not pass his physical, right? So that in its own self, that position has been riddled with injury. And we could go on and on about the offensive line in that situation as well. So I feel like this team is what it is with the talent they have right now. So I don't feel like, any kind of outcome could change it because I just think they know what the team is. However, I could see, especially the end of the year when Houston comes up here, if they play their backups in that game, because they are already guaranteed they are the 4 seed, right? They can't get any better than that. So if they play their backups and they lose to their backups, then I think we could make the narrative very hot in terms of, media and fans. Now, whether Amy buys into that or Amy has her own opinion on playing against Houston, which we know means a lot more to her, maybe her opinion would be different.
Should it? Should that matter more?
No.
I don't think so.
No, it definitely should.
I don't think so.
Well, I'll say it.
I
100%
don't think so.
No,
The Houston game should be 1/17,
I
the
agree.
2/17 of your entire season.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think it needs to be this big thing that we blow up, just because it's Houston.
Because if that's the case of what we're judging, just have a boat off or
This
yacht
isn't
off.
college football.
Yeah,
You don't get
exactly.
fired for not beating your arch rival that you've been playing for 150 years in the SEC West.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the way it should work.
If it's that, like, seriously, do some billionaire stuff. Like, go buy yachts and compare those. Like, it shouldn't be this. Like,
Get mad and buy a horse and race it in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, seriously. Like, those are the things. So that, like I've said it before, like, I hate incorporating ownership into football things because ownership runs the business and it's their baby. But, like, you, like, give people jobs to do this specific thing. And it comes down to trust.
Yeah.
It comes down to patience. Like, you guys will see at some point, like, you have kids, like, it's certain stuff that happens that, man, I just got to live them. That's just the way they're going to be. And that's a good thing, too. But you somewhat smooth the edges on the bad stuff that you see. And I feel like that's what this job is, too, is you watch this job grow. And I feel like we've had too much of a talk just about how she involves herself. And I know historically, go ahead.
No, that's all I had to say.
It is. Historically, that's been the case.
Yeah.
But if something's going to change here, I think you do got to get down to like the foundation of what has to change. And from what I've heard the fan base say this, the ownership got to move out of the way. Well, I almost feel like she is in a sense. Like, do they have meetings? Yeah, Rand have said that and others have said they keep her close in the loop. But like, our bosses hire you to do this job, right? As far as being on the radio.
Much to the dismay of the haters and losers, yes, they did.
Exactly. If they came in on every break and told you what you needed to do, like, you wouldn't want to do this job.
But I don't
I had
think
a
Amy
person
Adams
like that.
Strunk is. I don't think Amy Adams Strunk is doing that. I think what the comparison would be is if our company's accountants were hiring the on-air personalities, right?
Yeah.
Like,
okay. All right. Yeah.
Who hired Brian Callahan?
Who hired him? It was Amy.
Yeah, Rand Carthon
did not hire
Rand
him.
Carthon did not hire Brian Callahan. That in and of itself is the issue. So here's where I stand on this. I think it is getting harder to defend keeping Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan beyond this season, but I still think it's the right thing to do. Because you admitted this roster was not in a good enough position when you traded DeAndre Hopkins, you traded Ernest Jones, and you admitted early in the season, team isn't good enough. Let's sell assets. Let's plan for the future. Let's position ourselves for 2025 in a new stadium and moving forward. So that's part one to this. Again, the staff, the front office is not free from blame.
No,
but you have admitted that this team wasn't good enough mid-season. After publicly, you kind of started to tell people you thought that organization really thought they were going to be pretty good this year.
Oh yeah,
they were not. They got it wrong.
Sold that.
They sold us all a bill of goods that ended up going rotten within a couple weeks.
Right. And I know fans get mad or, when we hear from listeners, they're like, well, you guys were just as, sold on this team and you guys sold us a false, because I believed it.
Yeah, we were wrong.
So I'm one of those people.
100%. Yeah. We bought a bill of goods that was bad.
It ain't no shame on you in that one. It's the off season where everything is good mostly, right?
And there were good moves from what I thought.
And here's the thing too: the players. All right, let's go back to an unemotional time. Okay, whenever Calvin Ridley was signed, vibes was high.
Oh yeah,
L'Jarius Sneed trade,
sure.
High, right? Like
Lloyd, even being a center, we were like,
I mean, heck, we were doing exciting shows
sense.
about Jamal Adams being signed.
Yes,
he played
we were.
like 10 snaps.
And it's the off season. You see a way in which that can work. And it just doesn't, right? The season writes its own paragraphs. It just simply does, week by week. And he's not the issue. He is the main issue on this one. You look at the quarterback play and the turnovers that happen. You set your team in a bad spot. Like, that also can bring down a team. Your job as a quarterback, specifically, is to drive your team down the field to help them win and to uplift guys.
Here's where I am, though, on what I was going to say on keeping them. I think you stunt the growth of good young players who need continuity and need development when you continue to unplug and replug the gaming system every time you lose. And I just think that every time you do this in order to get a new vision in and a new idea, it is stunting the growth of guys you need to get better. And it makes it harder for those guys to get better when they have a new head coach every single season, when they have a new coordinator every single season, when there's a new weight program. At some point, you have to just let guys sit and marinate in the process and trust that it has to be seen through to a certain point to understand if it works or not.
Right.
I don't think this part of the process has happened long enough to understand if it works or not.
Yeah.
That being said, if you sold me on cleaning house, let's get a GM in here. Amy's going to get out of the way. Everyone else in that front office and organization is going to get out of the way. And the new GM is going to hire a head coach. Point blank. Football person making a football decision. I'm going to shrug and say that doesn't sound that bad. So where I'm at is it is getting harder to defend keeping them, but I'm still okay with it. And that is still, I think, plan A is keeping the front office and keeping the head coach for the sake of continuity. But it's getting harder and harder to stand on that hill for me.
Do you believe like Rand Carthon is okay with Brian Callahan as his head coach then?
I think
course.
they're rocking the same.
have
Because
no reason to
technically
believe
he
it's
did
not.
not hire him. I'm just going off of what Will was saying. Like, if you do this again, have the GM get his guy in there.
Here's the thing, though. No, I don't think that's true. Like Miss Amy has the final stroke of the pen, right? But to a person, Chad, Rand, Burke Nihill, all. We ain't hear from Miss Amy on it. Well, in that open presser, but all of them, collaboration was the word. They all agreed on this hire. Remember, we had Burke Nihill that said this was a home run hire for us.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I only care about collaboration if it works.
Sure.
of course.
Their collaborative process clearly did not yield a winning product this season. Therefore, we need to reevaluate the process that got us to this point.
Is this the issue that's going on in the NFL just in general, though, too? Because when you look at it, it's like 1 year to judge a person. Like, that is a hard...
I agree. I still think it's too short.
it's way too short.
I don't think it's enough time to understand if this staff and this regime can make these players better. Because players can always improve. Players can always get worse.
And that's where I wanted to go next as you was finishing up right there was how much of this do you put on the players?
It's a good question.
615-737-1045. Your reaction to the conversation. Can your opinion on Brian Callahan on the Titans front office change over the next two games? Are you keeping him or are you cleaning house? 615-737-1045 plus more NFL headlines after this. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Put Lee Company on your team and stay ahead of the game with home maintenance, repairs, and more. For $12 per month, you can sign up for the Lee Company home maintenance plan and receive 4 visits to your home every year by an experienced technician. Let the Lee Company professionals keep your air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and electrical systems in tip-top shape. Get the very best players on your team today. Learn more at leecompany.com or give them a call at 615-567-1000. That's online at leecompany.com. They've got over 80 years of experience, trusted since 1944. Lee Company is open 24/7 with 14 community locations in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alabama, and with over 950 vehicles in their fleet. You got a problem, you call that number. They will be there at a moment's notice. 615-567-1000. They're online as well at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. Friday morning, getting the show rolling on RKW 615-737-1045. Can your opinion on the Titans front office and coaching staff change over the next 2 games? Michael writes in on YouTube and says, y'all are grasping for topics today. They are not firing Callahan after 1 year. Of course, Rand was involved in the hiring of Callahan, and he definitely likes him. Stop the madness.
Oh, does he know that?
First of all, of course, Rand was involved in the hiring of Callahan. Can you tell me definitively, though, it was his decision?
No.
Because in this organization, I think everything goes through Amy Adams Strunk.
And what if you had 2 people at the top that you liked?
Another person that you like? I mean,
they interviewed a few people.
They
so
did.
Just saying.
I mean, quite a few.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's like friends with Rand. Or
And
something.
listen, we're not grasping for topics.
No.
I think there are plenty of people out there actually listening to us saying, gosh, why won't you all just fire them already? What the heck? Like, they're already fired. They're done. What are you talking about? So believe me, from people we hear from and from topics that we throw out, that some are good and some are bad, this ain't one we're grasping for. Did you think that John Robinson was going to be fired a couple of years ago in early December? No.
absolutely not.
Did we think Mike Vrabel was going to be fired until the very end last year? No. So with this organization and its track record and its owner's track record, absolutely it is a relevant conversation and topic. No question.
And you're in the same division that a franchise did it back-to-back years. That is Houston, Texas.
100%. 100%. We start with Thomas in Clarksville, 615-737-1045. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, guys, morning. All right, Ramon, real quick, first and foremost, I'll be humble and gracious. I do want to say OH. We didn't have to play flag football, but I told y'all if my team come out there with a chip on their shoulder instead of giving up because of the fan base being on them and the coach, that they'd be hard to beat with that talent and an attitude, and they all come out, you know, better than anybody, man. If a whole team has a chip and a goal instead of just 2 or 3 guys being mad and messing everything up. If that whole team plays angry like that every week, man, they're going to be hard to beat. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I
they
think
banded
that's why it went that
together.
way.
I will say, good team, but I got to trash them on one thing. You ready for it? I got to trash y'all on one thing, okay?
Go ahead.
You got to be humble and got to receive it the same way I just did. You good with that?
And that's why I said I'm just going to say OH and say I think the reason it was so lopsided, I don't think it was because Tennessee's a bad team. I don't even think it's because of the weather. I think it was a very talented top 3 team in the country that just was pissed. In my language, they were just mad.
I got my one gripe. I got my one gripe for y'all, though. You ready?
Yep.
Your bathroom system sucks.
Oh, it's
okay?
the worst.
Horrible.
It's
It
the
is
absolute worst.
It's been that way for it's horrible. It's horrible.
It's
As bad as I have ever seen.
They haven't
4
done a lot of
urinals,
updates on
4
I don't want y'all
urinals
to
and 3
boot me.
stalls.
I do have a take on
go ahead.
on Levis.
Go for it.
You know, of course, I'm a Vrabel fan with him being a Buckeye. I feel like John Robinson had some great picks, some great trades, some great contracts, but he also had some where it's like, dude, what are you doing? This guy's had all these back injuries or all these leg injuries. And then when he did get fired, which I wasn't too surprised, I almost could see Vrabel and Rand working together for a minute, but then that pick of Levis jumping up in the 2nd round, man, they could have got him. I might be wrong, but like at the end of the 4th or 5th round, he was not good in college. And it's almost like he was the one that talked Amy into taking that kid. Because if y'all remember, she loved John and Mike Vrabel picking Malik. She thought he was going to be great for the organization's future. And y'all had just spent a high draft pick on him. And then for Rand to come in here and trade up to get a guy who did not really do anything at Kentucky. He had a couple plays and he had a funny way that he drinks his coffee.
Just
and
real quick
fell in love with
before
him.
all conversations I feel like most have heard around that selection was that he was a Vrabel guy.
Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate the call.
Yep. That's most and again, we can't like verify that 100%.
Yeah, until one of them speak on that, that's the most, that's the loudest conversation
Well, even
I've
if they
heard.
spoke on it, we'll never 100% know who in that room wanted Will Levis and who didn't.
And I'm going to say this too about Amy Adams Strunk. Hell, I'd be excited because I think every quarterback that they have picked here in the past couple of years, she had some sort of hope. Again, she's not picking the quarterbacks, right? She is entrusting, for the most part, her GM to do that job. Mm-hmm. Now, she might have a little bit of say when they're talking about it, but she's probably excited could this be the one? Just like many of these NFL franchises, they get lucky sometimes, and sometimes they do not. So she should be excited about, whatever is being picked. Even if it doesn't work out in the end, you never know.
Eric in Nashville up next. Hey, Eric.
How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. I think we need to give them another season, because you're going to have the same issue again next season. If you fire the head coach and the general manager, you're going to have the same issue. They got to gel together. You can't gel it automatically within a season.
Mm-hmm.
So do we need changes? Yes. Is Will the answer? No. So I think let's do it a full rebuild. Like, start from the bottom up. Keep all your coaches. Keep your general manager. And let's try this again. Because what's going to happen if we change the head coach, change the general manager? What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, it is hard to have change that often. And I think that's the one thing in the last few years the Titans have had a lot of change. Not only with the GM, the head coach, the coaching staff, but roster turnover. Yeah. And that's hard to build a team when you're just signing guys for a year or two, right? The building the base is the biggest part. And that's why I think you have to continue to give Rand a chance to build his draft classes and get you the base, the foundation. And guess what? He's playing a lot of cleanup from John Robinson. You bet your britches he is.
Yeah.
And for Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
Who was 6-18 in his last 24 games. To our Ohio State fan in Clarksville's point.
I was going to say, do you think most of this fan base look at any bad that Vrabel did? Because I feel like
they absolutely do.
They do?
Yes.
A good bit of them do.
I think John Robinson becomes too much of a target.
Okay.
Than Mike Vrabel does. I think they both share a lot of the blame, but they also did a lot of good things. It just got bad at the end. To me, there are scenarios where different players can have different levels of success in the league. Like the same guy, right?
Yeah.
Like if you had given Will Levis the Sam Darnold path over his career, if you'd given Will Levis Baker Mayfield, if you'd given Will Levis, heck, even Brock Purdy's path, if you plucked him out of Tennessee and put him in San Francisco, could he have been successful? Maybe. If you put Peter Skoronski next to an all-pro left tackle as a rookie, how much better would he have been? Yeah. If you'd taken away the appendicitis that he had as a rookie. So with continuity comes confidence in the National Football League. And for guys like a J.C. Latham, for guys like a Tavondre Sweat, for a Tajay Spears, for all of these players that were brought here who are showing levels of improvement, you then stunt that growth and make them less likely to improve if you just tear it down at the first sign of the process not going the way it's supposed to. So then you have to judge something. Is that a bad player? If you fire this staff and bring in a new O-line coach and J.C. Latham struggles again next year, was that the wrong choice? Was that the wrong pick? Well, we'd probably say, he's terrible at football. It didn't work. Or is he just playing in a second system for a second season and had a culture shock in the NFL that isn't going his way because you tore it down, everything around him, and everything's changing? Mm-hmm. Although, the weight room stuff that he's doing is different. Everything is different. Like, I think we often judge players and fault players for the failing situations they were brought into because teams are so likely to tear it down at the first sign of something going wrong.
Or on top of that, too, on the topic of Vrabel a little bit, man, we've had conversation with folks, and I'll say this as far as, like, what was a Vrabel type and how he demeaned and, like, belittled guys in those moments, too. And one name was thrown, that was, like, Jayon. Like, you didn't like the way a guy tackled. Like, did he get him on the ground? Yeah, he did. Well, you want him to be a little bit more fierce. Like, the job of a tackler is to get him down on the ground.
Your type changed.
Your type changed.
Yeah.
Or you give a guy an opportunity, and I'm glad he did with Aaron Brewer, like undersized linemen. You know what I'm saying? Or just dudes that you held on to because they were his types. Like, there were flaws that were made that set you up to these points like here. Like, what was the real succession plan for if Aaron Brewer didn't sign back, if it got bad at him because you knew he had to be in a specific offense, right? And that's just one guy that you can bring up on a multitude of other dudes that you say to yourself, how did this roster get to this point? Well, Vrabes had a type. And that type probably doesn't fit every system. That type probably has you in a position to where if you don't have a backup good enough, of course, then they're going to suck. And I think that's a little bit what you're dealing with right now, like ratings. I don't know whose pick it was, but of course, he was tough at his level, so you bring him in then.
It was J-Rob.
See what I'm saying? So there's a lot of blame to be put on others before we get to this regime that they're in right now.
But that's why you have to give this coaching staff a chance. You after 1 year, you're going to say, okay, that's not the right way to do anything. I don't think that's fair. And I know it's not all fair in, football, love, and war, but I think you got to give them another year.
615-737-1045 is our number. Hour 2 coming up next here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Brent Hubs will join us at 7:20 to break down all of the transfer portal outgoings and incomings for Tennessee football. We can take more of your Titans calls, 615-737-1045, plus a big headline, the numbers from Christmas on Netflix, significant. And we'll tell you why they matter in a big way coming up.
What's going on? 7 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. A huge stinker to close out Thursday night football for the year as the Seahawks take down the Bears 6-3. It is the fewest number of points in a victory this year in the NFL, and also the fewest number of points in a victory for Seattle as a franchise. Caleb Williams finding a little bit of momentum late, but when forced with a 4th and 10, tossed an interception on Seattle's 22-yard line to end the game. Seahawks move to 9-7 and need a little help to get into the playoffs, as they will be watching the Rams-Cardinals game tomorrow night very intently. Titans getting ready for their final road game of the year. Taking a look at Thursday's injury report, Tyler Boyd, Nick Folk, Amani Hooker, Dylan Radins, and Otis Reese all remain sidelined, while for the Jaguars, left tackle Walker Little, Darnell Savage, Ventrell Miller, and Devon Hamilton all missing from the practice field. Got a great bowl game last night at the Game Above Sports Bowl. Toledo taking down Pittsburgh 48-46 in 6 overtimes. Tonight, the Syracuse Orange taking on Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW on a Friday morning rolls into hour number 2. 7 a.m. here already in beautiful Music City, 615-737-1045. Lots of Titans discussion this morning that you can get in on. Can these next 2 games change your mind on firing or not firing people in the front office or on the coaching staff? That's the discussion we've had this morning. If you missed it, you hit the podcast platform wherever you download podcasts at the end of the show. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and 1045thezone.com, which is where you get Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and myself, Will Bowling. Robert Walsh behind the glass, pushing all the right buttons, including ours. 1 hour down, 3 to go on this Friday morning. Netflix with some major numbers out of NFL Christmas Day football. The NFL and Nielsen said 65 million U.S. viewers tuned in for at least 1 minute of one of the 2 NFL games. The Houston Texans-Baltimore Ravens game, which wasn't much of a game, averaged 24.3 million. Chiefs win in Pittsburgh averages 24.1 million. Both NFL games surpassed the previous mark of 23 million for last year's streaming-only AFC wildcard game between the Dolphins and the Chiefs on Peacock.
It's pretty good.
They get a 10 out of 10 for me on their presentation. I thought Netflix absolutely crushed it. I expected it to be laggy. I expected blurry. I expected way too much for a network that does not major in this, and I thought they crushed it.
They definitely learned from the Tyson fight, the Love is Blind reunion live a year ago or so, where I guess the whole thing didn't end up going on live. But in all seriousness, yes, I think overall both productions, they had crews that incorporated talent from ESPN, NFL Network, you name it. They were kind of sprinkled throughout the pregame show or the broadcast itself. So I thought that was interesting, where you brought in a whole bunch of different personalities. And then I also just liked, from bringing in a more general viewer who maybe doesn't love football, the entertainment aspect. They were, interviewing WWE people on the sideline, people that incorporated within Netflix, some of the entertainment part. Beyonce at halftime. So if you're not just a football fan, you also got some of that as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I think for sure Netflix put everybody else on notice. Like, if you're going to do it, this is how you do it on these big events right here. It was just good. The audio was good. I thought the camera angles hit the way you needed them to. And again, I think Zeph said, Joseph, but said that he had a family member or something that couldn't get on.
I heard that.
Yeah. But
not for me.
Everybody I knew, like, we had it on 2 TVs. I was cooking outside, and it was good to go. Like, there was no lag, no pixelation or anything in the broadcast. So shout out to Netflix. And LeBron, I know you said what you said. I know you said what you said. And you're right. Christmas has always been y'all day. But I think from here on out, from Wednesday through Sunday, y'all just going to have to deal with it. Or like only day I think they can have it. Yeah, only day I think they can have it is on Tuesday. Like from, what was the NBA?
No,
I think it's
Tuesday.
Like,
I mean, if they're doing it on Wednesday, they'd play on Tuesday.
At this point, I'm thinking it because Monday Night Football Netflix can't get.
I believe Wednesday was the only day the NFL had not played on.
Sure.
In its history, because Titans-Bills here during COVID was on a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
oh, Lord. Well, yeah. And then, I mean, of course, player safety is the thing. No, it's not. They're saying it's the thing. But what they did, they moved the Steelers game up to Saturday. So you basically got Sunday to Thursday break again. So they're going to find a way. I forget the amount of money that Netflix paid, but they're going to go get all of that.
Well, they spent some of it, too, because the game production was outsourced to CBS. So we can't give all the flowers to Netflix. CBS did a great job with it, but they still had to hold their own. You know what I mean? NFL Media handled according to this press release, handled the pre- and post-game production for Netflix as well.
Did you, excuse me, you missed it yesterday, but my neighbor worked this, too. He's in producing and lighting.
Oh, dang. What is it? Are they hiring? What are they doing over there?
I can ask him. Mario, if you want me to.
Okay. I like my job. If my bosses are listening, I'm a big fan.
But, you know, friends.
Really?
I
can walk up the hill and pass a resume of what
did they say in Wolf of Wall Street? It's like, we're not going to be friends.
No doubt about it.
Mike in Cleveland is up next, talking Titans, 615-737-1045. Good morning, Mike.
Yo, good morning. Hey, Will, congratulations.
Come on, it's one of them cheerful words,
right.
Mike. Come on.
Right, yeah, man. I hope Peyton, your beautiful fiance is ready to let everybody know it's not an I or a W in her new last name.
That's correct.
Okay? So,
that is absolutely correct.
That's great.
See, even you remember.
I know, right? But it only took me 30,000 times. But no, so pretty much, man, these last two games, man, I think this is more about, Callahan showing what he can do on the offense. I think these last two games could be an indictment on Levis and could just really just help Callahan more than anything show like he does have a offense that can produce. You dig what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm looking to see. But what I really want to get into and really want to say, y'all my peoples, love y'all, been listening, to y'all since day one. Y'all already know. But going into the season, man, this team was overhyped, and I get it. New coach, you got to win the press conference. You got to, get the fans excited about something. But I think before all of that, the majority of the fans was kind of, even killed, like, we probably ain't going to do nothing. But as, they made a few pickups, they did a little bit of this, they did a little bit of that, They kind of wanted to keep up the momentum that Vrabel and that whole era had built up. So I say all of that to say, this going into, this off season, rolling into this season next year, man, it's time to get real blue collar. Shut your mouth, go to work. Don't try to win the press conferences. Just if they ain't gonna say anything, don't say nothing. Period. No matter how good they feel, no matter where the team is at. Yes, I'm speeding, Bam, before you snitch on me again. But that's my point. That's my point to it. Don't try to oversell it. Don't try to overhype it. Get blue collar, shut your mouth, and go to work and change this around. And, that's it, man. That's all I want to say. Doses.
Thank you, Mike.
Was he speeding?
As Mike gets more passionate, it's his truck telling him he's going too fast.
Damn.
Here's the thing, though, too, on this last offseason. And so it's one thing if we're fabricating and coming up with the stories and the headlines and the comments, right? Mm-hmm. The conversations and stuff that we had about this team came directly from the sources, right? They came directly from Burke, from Rand. From Chad when you had him on, when you were able to have him on. Like, so again, when you have new and a new coach, and this guy's one of those young phenom coaches they had to keep Brian Callahan here because if he'd went somewhere else, somebody might have hired him too. Remember, that was the conversation also. Like, they knew they had their guy. So, of course, Mike and others, when it comes down how we report it, how else are you supposed to get it as it pertains to giving it to you guys if they're that excited too? Now, I know somebody will come on, well, you're supposed to hold them accountable. Here's where I contest, and this is my sports entertainment side, no sports journalism. I've seen people go into those rooms and have the opportunity to ask hard questions, and they don't. They yuck it up with them and be like, well, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. So if anybody comes at us about like how we report on what they say, like, take that opportunity yourself to walk into those pressers and ask those hard questions and see what answers you get, because our job is to report what we're given, speak on it, and evaluate it as such. Now, again, going into this next offseason, of course, the tone is a little bit different. I think over at their offices, they're a little bit more humble about it going into it this time around. I think if you ask them, if given the opportunity, what would you change from 2024 going into 2025? And it would probably be what Mike said. We got to go to work.
Yeah, maybe the overhyping.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's overhyping. It's the belief in what you're building. Mm-hmm. It's just that simple. And I don't think you can fault anybody when it comes down to how they went about it. Like, to say those cats where we hit it out the park, like, yeah, there's belief in that. Because, again, it's the offseason. You're 0-0. You got a lot of new shiny toys that's inside of your building, and you feel like you got your quarterback of the future. Mm-hmm. Nobody, it may be one or two. But it ain't many that can say, yeah, I knew they was going to win 3 games. You lying to yourself if that's the case.
I think there was just so much excitement for a bit of a change because it had been so kind of stale and, changing over to an offensive-minded head coach. You've got like a brand new staff that you felt really excited about. How much did we speak about the staff? Not just us. We had guests on that know these guys personally and how they coach these positions and what they brought to the table. So again, it wasn't like we just say things to say things. Like, we're bringing in people who know these things, who have a feel about Brian Callahan and people who've covered him previously, right? Mm-hmm. So it is hard sometimes because I think they were, as an organization, really excited to see some change. It just didn't happen as fast as they'd like it.
And to your point real quick, too, like, speaking about the staff and everything that led into it, you got 3 named coaches, potentially 4, that if they walk in any room in the NFL office, they're probably going to get hired. Frank Bush is going to get hired somewhere. Tracy Rocker's going to get hired somewhere. Bill Callahan is going to get hired somewhere. At the time, Denard Wilson is going to get hired somewhere, right? These are dudes that we've heard, to your point, Kayla, others speak on, like, yeah, he's good at his job. So that's why I asked the question at the end of the last hour, how much do you put on the players too? Because if they've worked and made Pro Bowls and all pros out of other positions, like, it may just be the guys that, like, you inherited, or the ones you selected ain't there yet.
Yeah, these coaches didn't forget how to coach football. Rarely does a coach just forget. I mean, really ever. I've not met a coach that just forgets whatever they learned as they go to a new situation. I think the concern is, though, that we heard all these good things and we heard about all this great, and Burke Nihill sat down at our show and told us we are even more confident now that we knocked it out of the park than when we hired him. So then why didn't it work this year?
Right. And those
because y'all are right. We heard all those things, and then they still are probably just, I mean, at best, right, they're a 5-win team or a 4-win team, probably most likely.
Right.
So what didn't work?
Yeah. What didn't work?
It's a combination of everything.
It really is. And I'm not going to just continue to pile on the quarterback play or nothing like that. But O-line. I do think the O-line had its issues. You were light at linebacker, right? You are trying to figure out the injury situation at cornerback. That wasn't finding explosive guys on offense that's going to be able to make plays for you consistently.
I don't think you had the right special teams guys at first.
And then, of course, that also, like the block punt in Chicago, like you started off the season. What went wrong? We can name it. We can definitely go down. But I think a lot of it falls on all parties inside of the building.
Yeah.
A lot of blame to go around for the way this season didn't work. I still don't think that it is fireable amount of blame for anyone in that building yet. 615-737-1045. Shifting gears to Tennessee football. Brent Hubs of VolQuest joins us next. RKW 104.5, The Zone rolls on. Hour number 2 of this fine Friday morning. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, joined by our good friend Brent Hubbs of All Quests and On 3 out of Knoxville, talking some Tennessee football, maybe a little bit of hoops as well. Brent, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I hope everybody's doing well there and had a great Christmas, and all kinds of other good things happened to them over the last few days, right?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, somebody in particular had something great happen, Brent.
Yeah, that's what I understand. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's about time you got that taken care of.
I know. Well, look, Brent, we're just very blessed and thankful that God blessed me with someone willing to put up with this for the rest of their lives.
You were flirting long enough for give her a chance to get out of jail on that deal, man. Good deal on your part, but get that thing taken care of.
That's right.
Good.
You're exactly right. There is no doubt about it. We are very thankful.
Hey, your laughing is all we could do leaving Ohio Stadium on Saturday, okay?
We need more than a pickup man this morning.
Yeah.
It was rough. I'm telling you right now.
It was. My only regret is I couldn't find you, Hubs. That's it.
Well, you couldn't find me because I was wrapped like a mummy up there trying to stay warm for what I was trying to do.
And also
sure.
Ramon was caught in the terrible bathroom lines at Ohio Stadium for about a quarter and a half at one point. So it was hard for him to find anyone but a line that was not moving.
I'll never complain about the troughs again. You hear me?
I feel you 100%. I think the troughs are going away, but I totally get it. And again, all that stuff is magnified when it's 21-0 and the team you're there to watch and cheer for is struggling the way that Tennessee did out of the gates, man. That was as bad of the first quarter as we've seen in a long time.
Oh.
So, Brent, let's start there with this Tennessee team. But why was the gap just so big between Tennessee and Ohio State? I know, obviously, Ohio State has something to do with that and the way they bounced back from their loss to Michigan. But what was the biggest reason why you felt like Tennessee was just kind of played off the field in this game?
Well, I think it started with how the game started. I mean, you needed a good start if you were Tennessee. You appeared to have the 3-and-out. And then you had the penalty, and then Ohio State really got into some of their stuff and got going. And, we talked about it last week. I thought one of the things that Chip Kelly would do against Tennessee is take some of that Bobby Petrino stuff that Arkansas used and some of the sideways stuff and the misdirection stuff and use it to their advantage. And, they hit they hit receivers on the move, on the underneath stuff and really taxed Tennessee's linebackers and put them in bad spots. And then, Tennessee gave up what they had not given up all year long, which was, the deep shots over the top. I mean, they gave up 2 30-yard plays and a 29-yard play in the first quarter. Going into that game, Tennessee had given up 30 snaps of 30 yards or more all season long. Giving up 7 snaps of 30 yards or more all season long. So they had not given up the chunk plays like that. And, when it started going downhill, in a bad way. Ohio State's better, particularly at the skill spots. It's the best core of receivers that Tennessee has played. And again, we talked about it. Don't let Will Howard get comfortable. And, man, he was comfortable the whole day. Tennessee got no pressure. Those combinations are just a recipe for disaster. And we saw it play out in front of our eyes on Saturday.
So, Brent, with now the transfer portal window that is about to close, with Tennessee that had to recruit the portal and get ready for Ohio State at the same time, it's an abrupt ending, and it's now a very short amount of time where you can just focus on roster acquisition. How difficult of a situation is this for Tennessee, for Indiana, for SMU, and just how much more difficult now is it for, say, a Tennessee versus an LSU and an Auburn that's kind of been able to lick their wounds a little bit, spend a lot of money reportedly in the transfer portal, and spend more time getting ready for 2025?
Well, it's the calendar has to get fixed. What we're doing right now is just not realistic and particularly if you're going to expand the playoffs to include more teams. It just doesn't make any sense. And what the answer is, I don't know, but it has to get fixed to where you can everybody is focused on roster acquisition at the same time. Nobody has a 2-week head start on anybody else or a 3-week head start on anybody else. I mean, think about this. Tennessee got home Sunday morning around 5 a.m. They were in the office before 9 a.m., not getting ready for an opponent. They were getting ready to visit with players to try to close out the roster management on their own team, which is taken all week long. They're still trying to get some things finalized with some current players. And then try to work on guys that you're interested in that haven't visited yet. You're trying to see if they'll hold off and you can get a visit out of them in January. You're trying to see where you are with the 4 visitors that you did have. And you still got 8 teams out there who are preparing for a game against each other. It doesn't make sense from a calendar standpoint. I'm not going to do my whole soapbox this morning, but it has to adjust in some way that you're not dealing with everything the way you are the first 2.5, 3 weeks of December. It's just really, really hard.
Brent Hubs, a Vol question on 3 with us this morning, talking Vols, talking transfer portal, and we're going to talk about the big one here, man. Conversation about the portal with a guy like Nico Iamaleava. I know that's come up in rumors and stuff like that. Where are the Vols with a guy like him?
I mean, as of this morning, they're in good shape. They're fine. It's again, I'm not saying that to suggest that something's going to happen today, because I don't have any reason to believe that there's anything going to happen today. But I think Austin Price on this show has said it, and I'm going to steal his line. I mean, everyone from your third-team punter to your starting quarterback is a free agent. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just the reality. They're a free agent every year. They can ask for more. They can leverage you for more, and you have to make decisions. And that's the world we're living in right now. I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of it, and it gets more expensive every year. Where's it end? I don't know. But as of right now, I mean, Nico's Tennessee's quarterback coming back for 25.
Yeah. Brent Hubs with us this morning. Brent, so the other thing of concern from this past weekend, in my personal opinion, was the offense just didn't look like it had a threat to it. As far as, and I'm not even specifically talking about the playmakers, right, or the players that's out there. I know the wide receivers can use some help, and of course the O-line, according to PFF, college didn't do that well either, right? But at what point does the self-evaluation happens for Coach Heupel and his offense, man, to somewhat, let it grow a little bit more legs as to what it's doing? Like maybe not going, sideline to sidelines on alignment, because when you look at the way it was set up, like either you're going quick outs or you're doing a quick comeback and you put the ball in the athlete's hands, but there has to be some pressure from this offense, if you're not going to go fast, that you put on the defense. And I feel like there is a misstep there.
Well, and I think that once you get through tomorrow night, frankly, and you the bulk of your roster is set, and you've gotten the people that you want back on your roster, settled, and you feel like you're in good shape until the spring portal window opens, I guess. But
so it closes tomorrow.
It closes tomorrow, and then it opens back up for 10 days in April. But you once you get through tomorrow, I think you feel like your roster is pretty much set for next year, unless with the exception of a few players you're going to try to add. But I think during this month of January, during this time, I think you'll be on the road recruiting some, going into some schools and seeing some kids. You're not going to be making a bunch of home visits at night. But I think if you're Josh Heupel, you're doing a total deep dive, and you're doing a total self-scout on yourself, a total self-scout on each individual position on the offensive side of the ball. What went well? What's the struggle? What are defenses doing to you that are causing you issues? Is it a, quote, talent problem? Is it some schematic problems? Can you get more creative with different things? This offense evolved this year into a 2 tight end offense. But, tempo is obviously harder, for whatever reason, it's harder to run, it seems now, than it has been in the past. And some of that's, players getting hurt or faking injuries or whatever. Some of that is if a player runs out of bounds and on your side of the field, one of your players does inside the coach's box area, then that's a substitution issue. If a wide receiver gets blocked out of bounds over there, then you go into a substitution issue, which means the official stands over the ball and won't let you snap it, whether you want to go fast or not. How much of those situations come up? How much of it is your decision not to go fast? How much of it is, okay, in-helmet communication slowed us down, or it didn't slow us down? All of that factors into your tempo. And then I think you have to look at what can we do to help free our playmakers up? How many times did we hit a receiver in full stride, either running away from the line of scrimmage or running parallel with the line of scrimmage? Is that something we have to look at? More motions, more shifts. I mean, I don't think this is the, quote, crossroads and they've all figured your offense out and your offense it doesn't work. I don't think you're there, but you have to evolve. Teams are evolving to how they defend you. That's why you don't have as many people running wide open, and you don't have the confusion in the secondary we saw in year 1 and year 2. So what's Josh Heupel's counterpunch to that? And I think that's what quality coaches do, and that's what Josh Heupel, I expect him to do, and what Tennessee's offensive staff will do here over the course of the next few weeks and months, getting ready for spring practice and then ultimately getting ready for the 25 season.
Gotcha.
Brent Hubs of VolQuest joining us as he does every Friday at 7:20. So, Hubs, on the note of that, speaking of that wide receiver core, as you mentioned, the transfer portal closing up tomorrow but will reopen in April. Do you feel like they'll make any moves at that position, or are they happy with what they have with that core?
No, I think, Kayla, when you look at just the bodies that they've lost, I think that you're ultimately going to look certainly to add somebody there or some bodies there, multiple people there potentially. And I think it's a question of what are you looking for? What do you feel like you need? What do you feel like you lack there? Again, is it schematics? Is it all talent? Is it a combination of things? I think you certainly need more of a bigger play threat than what you played with this year. Dante Thornton was your best big play threat, but he was in and out of the lineup because he was hurt. What do you think Chris Brazzell can be for you? Is he a slot guy? Is he an outside guy? Is he going to take the quote next step for you? And I love Brew McCoy. He's one of my favorites of all time. Great guy. There were some limitations on what he could do from a physical standpoint, getting vertical down the field. They've got to find someone who taxes the defense better, can win better at the line of scrimmage in one-on-one situations, and you can free them up and get them going and get them moving in the right way. So, yeah, I think they absolutely will look hard in the transfer portal at receivers. There's been a lot of receivers in the portal. A lot of guys have made some choices elsewhere, but we'll see who else goes in the portal today. Mm-hmm. And remember, anybody in the playoffs, after they get beat, they've got a 5-day window they can go in the portal.
Okay.
So next week, player, let's say Boise State gets beat. Any Boise State player has a 5-day window to go in the portal next week. Anybody who loses in the next round of the playoffs has an additional 5-day portal that their coaching staff has to manage with their roster, because any player can go. They've got 5 days after you get beat to go if the portal's already closed. That's
a good little nugget, Brent. Brent Hubs joining us of VolQuest this morning. Speaking of the portal, what's the latest on the Northwestern offensive lineman transfer, Josh Thompson? I hear it's kind of like a 3-team race right now. And what are you feeling like with Tennessee's chances?
Well, that one, he was set to go to Tennessee on Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that one was done. I think he had let Tennessee know that they were going to be the school of choice, and I think when word got out that that's where everything was trending to, I think his agent's phone blew up significantly. Lots of phone calls, and I think LSU has come in with a really really high offer because he's a big priority for them, just as he was for Tennessee. And then I think the question is, what's Tennessee's what's their counter? Is it going to be close to that, or does Tennessee feel like, that they don't want to pay that much for a guard when they're looking at other things out there? I mean, this is true free agency, right? I mean, it's one of those deals where do you want to go versus who's offered you the most money, Ramon? And is this, as he said it to me when he left Knoxville, I'm on a 1-year rental. Okay, it's 12 months. So for 12 months, do you take, a couple $100,000 more at one place versus another, or do you go somewhere where you think you may be the happiest for 12 months? That's a personal decision, and we'll see what he comes to. I think we'll hear that decision later today, and if I were guessing right now, I think it's probably going to be LSU ultimately.
Brent Hubs of VolQuest on 3, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kale, and Will. Brent, we've talked since the beginning of NIL about how Tennessee's collective and NIL part of their organization is as good as there is in college athletics. Is it fair to say other teams like an LSU, like an Auburn, have caught up to Tennessee in that regard? Or are situations like this simply more a result of, hey, we don't want to pay this kind of money because we've got a number in our heads and we're not willing to go over that? Where is the truth within kind of those two different ideas?
That's a great question. And I think the one thing about Tennessee early on, and why Tennessee was perceived to be the best out there, Tennessee was more organized than everybody was going early on. Tennessee had one collective. At one point, Florida had 3 or 4. LSU had a couple of different collectives. And, all these schools were just these little pop-up things going everywhere. Tennessee was always at one collective. There was one group handling everything at Tennessee. That allowed them to be more organized. That allowed the money to be pooled all into one place very early on. So Tennessee's advantage early on in the process was they were just more organized and had all the resources in one place. What's happened now is everybody has gotten down to one collective at their respective schools, and everybody is this, or not everybody, but the schools that have the money and have the strong fan base and the donor base, once they've gotten themselves organized, they've gotten their pool of money up, and everybody's working in somewhat of a similar pool of money. Now, here's the thing we don't know about the money. We don't know exactly what the number is, right? I mean, allegedly, Ohio State spent somewhere between $20 and $22 million for the team they have on the field right now. I don't know if that number is 100% accurate or not, but that's the rumored number. Ole Miss, $20 million. I think Tennessee was closer to $14, $15 million this past year. The amount of money being spent on football rosters is more than doubled the last 2 years. It's going up this year as well. So, it does get down to, at the end of the day, when you're trying to you don't have a, quote, salary cap, but you do have a limitation in the number of dollars that you have possession of. Okay? I mean, that's the reality of it. You're not passing go and getting an extra $200 every day to add to your bucket. I mean, there is a number that is a real number. And I think you have to decide as an organization, what are you slotting for what? Okay? And somebody's value is based on how much somebody will pay them. Okay? Say you have a player in the portal that you like and you're willing to pay, let's say $400,000. But player or school X is in a dire need for that position. I mean, and that's their target person that you're battling against. And they need that person so bad, they're going to give them $800,000. Well, then you have a choice. Are you going to compete financially, or do you say, we need a player there, but we're not that desperate for a player there. We're not going to match their offer. That's the world we're living in. I mean, we can call it whatever we want to call it, but that's the bidding war that's taking place right now. And everybody's got an agent, and everybody's trying to play one against another to get the amount of money that they can get. And organizations are trying to get a handle on this. It's funny because there's a lot of people, and I'm rambling here, but there's a lot of people talking about general managers. Oh, you got to have a general manager and for football, which I don't necessarily disagree with. My question is, in college football, who's qualified to be a general manager? Anybody that's worked in NFL front office is dealing with multi-year contracts, salary caps. Hey, we got this guy for a 3-year deal. We don't have to worry about him for 3 years. Okay? On the college side of things, you got to recruit your player every year, some cases every month, to keep them there. You don't have a salary cap to deal with. So how qualified is an NFL person to be a college GM? Conversely, who in the college space is qualified to deal with the money side of it that they're dealing with the first time? It is very much a learning curve in the college game right now. And those who learn the best, the quickest, are going to manage this thing better. Just like Tennessee was out of the gates faster than everybody else from a collective standpoint because they had experienced guys and they were organized. That's where college football is in terms of roster management right now.
Hey, Hubs.
That's a great way to put it.
There was this old system where we used to watch television on this box. It was called cable, right? It was called cable, and you got a lot of channels, and you just flip through them, and you bought your packages in one place. And then there's this thing called the internet, to where you could buy subscriptions to different apps, and you could watch movies on those. essentially what I'm saying is it looked like we're going to eventually go back to the old system to where now all these streaming apps are in one place again, and it's essentially cable again. I feel like at some point they're going to have to shut down this operation of transfer anytime because there's no stability in it whatsoever. Like, it's going to have to be 2 and 3 year deals that are given. And I say deals and not scholarships because that's what's most frustrating about it for all parties involved right now. We're going back to cable. We just happen to call it YouTube TV right now. Tubi TV right now is all I'm saying.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Here's the problem with that. One, how are you going to get everybody in college football united? Because I promise you the Big Ten's viewpoint on things versus the SEC's is slightly different. Okay, the Big Ten and the SEC's viewpoint is largely different than the Big 12 and the ACC. So who's going to be the czar? Who's going to be the person that's the commissioner that organizes it? What are you going to do about collective bargaining? What are you going to do about antitrust? Are you going to put them on as contract employees at the university, or are they going to be legitimate full-time employees at the university? Let's get out of this NIL and just call it what it is. It's pay for play. But how do you get all of that organized? That you go to a player and say, hey, here's your deal. You have to play a certain percentage of the snaps to get your deal. If you don't, then outside of an injury, if for some reason you're not playing, then you need this. And, oh, by the way, if you want to leave, you're going to have to pay back money owed to us when you leave. That's your buyout for leaving. Okay, all of that sounds great. Okay, that's a protector. Players still have their leverage and still get paid. Schools have their protection and a little leverage back. Who's organizing it?
Me.
I mean,
There you go. There you go.
Me.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like who is going to be in there that is not going to have a bias towards something, that's smart enough and can manage this and work all this out? Let's look at things. The NFL is doing very well, right? Highly successful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's not well liked, but the commissioner's not bad in the NFL. How's baseball going?
Right.
How's baseball doing? How's their commissioner doing these days?
Ugh.
Yeah, okay. I mean, where's the NBA right now? And then where David Stern had it a few years ago, right? So like who is that person that's going to run it and get it moving into a brand new world that's vastly different? I will say this. If it is not just football, it's college athletics. If they don't get some control over it, you're going to see more of what you saw at Miami in basketball yesterday with the head coach going, you know what? I'm done, guys. I just can't do this anymore. This is not what I signed up for. Now, I know he's an older gentleman, but, I mean, look what happened with Tony Bennett at Virginia. I just can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's what's going to continue to happen until you get some kind of control. The question is, how do they get organized enough to get some kind of regulation and guardrails in place? We've been talking about guardrails for 3 years, okay? They haven't even site surveyed to put a guardrail yet, much less bring out a crew to start putting some guardrails down, okay? We don't have any idea where to put the guardrail right now.
Outstanding stuff as always with Brent Hubs of All Quest at On 3 this morning here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Great way to sum it up. It is we could spend the entire show today just talking about guardrails in college athletics and NIL. Brent, we appreciate you, sir. Have a happy new year, and we will talk to you next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
Thanks,
Yes,
Hubs,
sir.
you
Brent
too.
Hubs of All Quest at On 3 joining us. Brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life. That is why I think I always tell people, even if you're not a Vols fan, you got to still tune in for Brent Hubs. All of this is applicable to your
Great perspective.
program. And I think the answer on Tennessee and NIL and everyone else catching up is really interesting and I think makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you as well. 615-737-1045 is the number. Today kind of feels like the first day where all the bowl games are kind of big and are teams that you've heard of. And you know their logos, and you know where the game is actually being played. We'll run through some of those, including the local game coming up. Hey, it's Footballing here for my friends at Brentwood Hearing Center. Look, we were all together, many of us with families over the past couple of days, maybe the past few weeks. Maybe it was going back to Thanksgiving, and we've all got that one family member that you're thinking, oh my gosh, it is harder to communicate with them. They cannot hear me the way they could maybe last holiday season, last Thanksgiving, last Christmas. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're thinking, man, I had to really repeat myself a lot with family when I was around the dinner table this week. Well, I'm here to tell you Brentwood Hearing Center can help. And their leadership team recently attended the launch of a revolutionary hearing aid, the Phonax Sphere, which is dedicated to helping patients hear well in situations when there's background noise, like when you got grandkids, or maybe it's the niece or nephew. Maybe it's your son or daughter who, crowded situation, they're sitting next to you. You can't hear them as well as you used to be able to. If you're having difficulty hearing conversation where there's background noise, this is the technology for you. These are the folks that you need to go see. BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's where you check them out online. You can give them a call at 615-377-0420. They'll learn where you're having the most trouble hearing, and they'll get you the technology that helps you hear better. It's going to improve your life and the lives of those around you. 615-377-0420, or visit them online at BrentwoodHearingCenter.com. That's Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing, better life. Your Friday morning continues right here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, RKW. Check out the podcast feed wherever you download podcasts at the end of the show. Great discussion with VolQuest's Brent Hubs. Mike Keith still to come in a half hour, and Ron Slay in hour number 4. Streaming live at 104.5 The Zone TV, where you can watch the show on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Bowl games get good today, guys.
Yeah.
It is a big day of football ahead. Starts at 11 a.m., by the way, with Oklahoma and Navy. Sure, why not? Anyone in your life who tells you there are too many bowl games is essentially just telling you that they no longer need to be in your life.
Exactly.
So just listen to them when they tell you that. Georgia Tech Vanderbilt today, though, should be interesting at 2:30 in the Birmingham Bowl. How much momentum could a bowl win add for Vanderbilt today?
Oh, all of it. It'd be a Titan-like offseason.
Oh, geez.
But seriously, with Diego Pavia playing, if that's correct, if he's still going to hold to it, figuring out what his contract's going to be going into the next year, they got a real good shot. They got a lot of momentum. Like, as far as a team being good, I feel like this takes them back to like Jay Cutler era. If they go out and get a dub tonight. So a lot of momentum, man. I'm talking about their collective should grow for sure in a game like this because, the proof of concept of winning should be attached to Vanderbilt at this point under Clark Lee.
Yeah, and that's a good team they're playing in Georgia Tech. You've been very high on Haynes King.
Big Haynes King, yeah.
Yes, you
Absolutely.
You are a advocate of him. And I think on the other side, like you said, you have Diego Pavia, who's made a name for himself and Vanderbilt this season, bringing kind of their name to the forefront of even the national media. I remember when they beat Alabama, just how much we heard about him on the big screen behind us going on, which is ESPN right now. So I think it could give them momentum in winning a bowl game like this, just carrying that on from the season. And I know it didn't end the way that they would have liked it to end, but Pavia was beat up.
How did it end?
Well, it did end up in them losing to the Vols.
Okay, because there was a lot of Chelsea fans after we lost to Ohio State. I was just wondering. You mentioned it. I wasn't going to bring it up.
And honestly,
how did it end?
They did lose to the Tennessee Vols. But I will say this. They should be a little bit more confident this season going into that game because they felt like they could compete. It didn't turn out the way they wanted it to, but Pavia's got some rest. He got the good news that he'll get a year extension. So I expect him to be good in this bowl game, and that could propel some transfers over there, or it's just in terms of recruiting overall to kind of build a base for Vandy.
Big one tonight in the Las Vegas Bowl, USC and Texas A&M. USC's got issues. A lot of their big-time recruits are out, including the Branch brothers, obviously Bear Alexander, that whole thing with them, with Georgia, and now at Oregon has just been an issue. They are a program that I'm watching very closely going forward into this offseason.
Bear Alexander is like Walter Nolan 2.0, essentially.
Honestly, it's a good way to put it. Who had a great year at Ole Miss.
Which is crazy.
Who's going to be an NFL defensive lineman that we're going to be talking about come draft time very soon.
He did, yeah, for real. He's one of them ones on your team. Yeah, for sure. To be honest with you, I don't know what USC is as a team.
I don't know if USC knows what USC is.
They don't, and that's why I'm surprised. They're happy with Lincoln Riley still. I don't think they're
happy with him at all.
I just think they have to bite the bullet a little for the money.
Because what are you going to do, right? They came and snatched him out of Norman, Oklahoma.
Oh yeah,
gave him a house on a cliff overlooking and seeing the ocean. If that's true,
he couldn't even keep his quarterback this year and produce him. We all talked about Miller Moss coming into the season and him being under Lincoln Riley, and then that didn't work out.
And I think they had a 5-star get snatched by Colorado.
Malachi Nelson,
yeah.
But they got another 5-star from A&M at quarterback. So, they're going to have a highly touted quarterback next season.
They've just got to show progress. And while they bettered their defense a wee bit, it's almost like then the offense went the different way. So I don't know. Brand-wise, when you see USC, A&M, you're like, whoa. But I feel like this is going to be an A&M battle. They're going to win this.
Yeah. That's the way I view this one, too. I didn't pick this one, but USC got lost this year. I couldn't figure out what they were going to be. I think they played, who was it? Notre Dame close for a little bit.
They played everybody close.
Yeah.
A little bit. Almost all their losses were one-score losses where they led in the fourth quarter.
I forgot they were in the Big Ten, though, because Oregon got so much of the new coming glory just because of what Oregon has displayed this season. And I'm like, wait, what conference is USC in? Are they in the middle of the Pac-12 and the Big Ten? Where are you? Find yourselves.
They're close losses to Will's point, man. Michigan, 3 points. Minnesota, 7 points. Penn State, number 4 ranked team, 3 points. Like, they did lose some very close games.
They should beat Michigan.
Maryland
they should
one.
beat Minnesota.
Yeah, 29-28. Yeah, you didn't realize it was that close, man. But, and they went toe-to-toe for a little bit with Notre Dame, 49-35. So, Lincoln Riley's going to have time. Again, they showed this offseason progress that they were having, beefing guys up. It just wasn't good enough this year.
I mean, they led in the fourth quarter of all those losses except the Notre Dame loss, where they were close in the fourth quarter as well. Really interesting, the psyche of that program, because a lot of guys, despite how close they were, have jumped ship since then. So big offseason in Los Angeles, the college football town of Los Angeles, he says with the utmost sarcasm. Other headlines yesterday, Teddy Bridgewater's back, signing with the Detroit Lions after a high school state championship run at Northwestern Senior High School in Miami, 32 years old, and Dan Campbell went out of his way to say, well, him and Hooker has still improved. He really has. I feel like every week he's gotten a little bit better. This does not mean that Hooker is out. That's not what this means. If it comes to that, Hooker is going to play for us, but Teddy probably will too.
I don't get this. I'm sorry. I understand Teddy Bridgewater has been a great backup at times in his recent part of his career, but you haven't played for a year. And why are you signing him when you have a younger guy who has been there for 2 years under your system? And I get it, Bridgewater was with that staff too, for the most part. But I don't really get it. If you think Hendon is a guy that can come up and do the job if Goff goes down, why in the world are you going out of your way to go get Bridgewater?
I don't think enough experience for Hendon. I think their pathway of using him and letting him grow and mature may just be like what most quarterbacks should be going through. I think just because he's a veteran, Teddy's a locker room guy, from all things I've heard, that you feel better about putting a seasoned vet in the playoffs, because they're dealing with a lot of injuries right now, mostly defensively, but you feel better with a vet, and Teddy knows it.
I think they're doing this because of what happened in the Niners 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's that.
I mean, literally, if you get through 17 games, you get through a whole offseason, and one injury or two injuries can derail all of it. You've put in too much work to not have the break glass in case of emergency situation. And to me, that's exactly why you do it. I mean, the Niners missed out on the Super Bowl against the Eagles because 2 quarterbacks got hurt. That's all it took.
And you had to put one back in that could not throw it, Brock Purdy at the time.
Exactly.
So does he go back to coaching high school after this?
That's the plan. That's what he said. He's on the record saying players knew this was the case, and we knew that coach was going to go do this quarterback thing and then come back to coach, and they'll get ready for the next season in 3A Florida high school football after he maybe wins the Super Bowl.
If you Hendon, you want out?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
That was my mindset.
615-737-1045 is our number. The second half of the show is coming up. Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith at 8:20. We watched maybe the worst football game of the year last night, so you didn't have to. We'll talk about it next.
What's going on? 8:01, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Huge stinker to close out Thursday night football for the year as the Seahawks take down the Bears 6-3. It is the fewest number of points in a victory this year in the NFL, and also the fewest number of points in a victory for Seattle as a franchise. Late in the fourth quarter, Caleb Williams found a little momentum late when faced with a 4th and 10, tossed an interception to Seattle's 22-yard line to end the game. Seahawks moved to 9-7 and need a little help getting into the playoffs as they'll be watching the Rams-Cardinals game tomorrow very intently. Titans getting ready for their final road game of the year. Taking a look at Thursday's injury report, Tyler Boyd, Nick Folk, Amani Hooker, Dylan Radens, and Otis Reese all remain sidelined. For the Jaguars, left tackle Walker Little, Darnell Savage, Ventrell Miller, and Devon Hamilton all missing from the practice field. Had a good bowl game last night. Games Above Sports Bowl where Toledo took down Pittsburgh 48-46 in 6 overtimes. Tonight we get the Syracuse Orange taking on Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into the second half, hour number 3 on a Friday that feels kind of like a Tuesday and a Saturday all in one. 615-737-1045. How you join us? Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. Robert Walsh makes the show happen. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll be joined by the VOTT. Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, talking Titans and Jags. Ron Slay still to come at 9:20. Your thoughts and ruminations in the F&M Bank chat on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, where you stream the show on 104.5 The Zone TV. It's better if you just accept that today is a day you are living in without knowing what day it actually is.
Yeah, it does feel like Saturday to some.
It was. I got big Friday vibes yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, you said today seems like a reset of a Tuesday.
I feel
almost.
like it's a Tuesday, yeah.
So weird.
It is weird, but
And next week will be the same thing because New Year's is in the middle of the week.
Yeah, I know. Well, is it? Yeah, it is. I was just
wild.
Explaining to my wife, like, last time we had like a Wednesday Christmas, like I was playing. So like my schedule was just screwed up anyway. Like days just went together. So like actually having to be on like a Monday through Friday schedule was like mind boggling to me. She was like, yeah, we were actually getting ready for games and stuff. So a little different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Last night, the Seahawks beat the Chicago Bears 6-3. No Kenneth Walker for Seattle. Zach Charbonnet carrying the load. Geno Smith unable to do much against a Bears defense that played better. They've struggled a lot without Matt Eberflus, but played well enough to win. But, man, that offensive line got absolutely bodied. 7 sacks of Caleb Williams, who is 16 of 28 for 122 yards and an interception. DJ Moore with 54 yards. Hopefully you are watching the Ventures Bowl.
Yeah.
Between Arkansas State and Bowling Green during this down in Mobile. As ugly as NFL football to me, guys, has been all season.
Look, Caleb Williams, I haven't been the biggest proponent of him coming into the season, but I will tell you this. It's not like he's been helped out a lot. No. Because I think they knew Matt Eberflus before the season even started. They didn't really want him there. I think they just held on to him for what reason, I don't know. But it didn't seem to work out well for Caleb Williams. We talk about that word continuity. It's his first year, and his head coach doesn't even last the whole season. He's been sacked 67 times this year. The guy closest, C.J. Stroud with 52. So it's not even close. He is way above and beyond. But part of it is on him, guys. And the adjustment has not been great for him at this level. Whether or not that improves with a coach that they bring in to help him, we'll see.
Yeah, it's young quarterbacks playing early, right? And I just have are we more forgivable just simply because he's number 1 overall pick? than a guy like Will Levis because we're saying he's got the same issues that the Titans do as far as offensive line, right? It just seems like his team was more set up for success than almost anybody else going into it. And I'll say this too. His plays got to be a little bit better also. His overthrows are some of the worst overthrows I've seen for a young guy. Like he's trying to catch a guy down the seam and he's waving them in. I'm like, no, that was on you, sir. You overthrew that. Again, you see the talent. You see when he's running he's on the run, throwing footballs around. That offensive line is just cheeks. And it seems to be a common theme with bad teams for the most part, though.
And they tried to fix it, too, but not enough.
And Geno wasn't that great. I mean, to me, he wasn't that great either last night either.
The Seahawks offense, right now, it's not great at all.
No, and it was a low game is what it was. I like the defensive side of what it could have been, but nah, it was bad football.
That was
I said
stinky.
this earlier last week. Like, NFL's got a bad football problem on his hand, too. They got to get the bottom half of this league in a very competent position to where it's still enticing to watch. It's still exciting. And with like those older quarterbacks leaving, your Brees, your Brady's, and Mannings, like this young group better grow up quick or you're going to have some issues on your hand.
Yeah, because we said this is the worst year probably to be a bad team if you want to get a high draft pick because you're just battling with the other bad, stinky teams in the league. Mm-hmm. That's why every game we're like, okay, where are the Titans at now?
Buck do his weekly vibe checks.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's essentially what we're living with week to week here.
Yeah, Caleb definitely gets more time because he's better than Levis.
Mm-hmm.
He's more talented and he's the number one overall pick. Yeah. So I don't think you can compare the two situations. I do think he's also much less mistake prone than Levis has been. Like he had a 354 snap streak without an interception that ended last night.
Yep.
Hasn't turned the ball over significantly. He just takes a lot of sacks. And to me, he almost has more of the Malik Willis trait where he runs out of the back of the pocket the second it starts to collapse, where he's got to get out of this mode of running out of the back of the pocket to get to the sideline and throw on the run. Now, to be fair to him, though, as well, he makes that throw a lot of times. And last night on 4th and 5, after a false start penalty made 4th and 1, 4th and 5, and they brought the punt team out, then they took a timeout to change their minds, then they go for it. He made one of the plays of the game to find DJ Moore on a crossing route against man coverage on the run against a zero blitz and made it work. But then you also have another blitz on the game deciding play on 4th and 10 where like he literally is just off his back foot chucking it up saying Roma Dunze's down there somewhere. And there's way too much of that going on for a guy who it just feels like might get broken by a bad organization with a bad coaching staff who consistently breaks good players. Mm-hmm. That is the Chicago Bears way.
And that's part of, why you grit your teeth a little when these quarterbacks that have a lot of talent in college go to these bad teams, early on in the draft, because it isn't just the snap of a finger things are going to be great. Look at Bryce Young. I mean, drafted by the Panthers. He's seemingly trying to figure it out right now, but he was benched.
He was.
I mean, it's just you never know what is really going to happen.
It's a crapshoot, but I will say this: you feel a way about what Caleb Williams and that team is for the most part. That the right head coach now that might have to be a retread vet, right? Mm-hmm. I think Ron Rivera's a guy that want to get back in. We heard Pete Carroll's a guy that want to be back in. There's somebody that you feel like that can settle that franchise. And they probably going to have to do it the hard way and really minimize the offense for a little while till Caleb catches up. Because watching what Jaden Daniels doing in his year one is very enticing to a lot of people. And then here's the other side of it. What are you going to get in year two? What's the growth going to look like?
Absolutely.
C.J. Stroud right now has got a lot of people questioning just what he's going to be as a quarterback. You see the talent. I just think they're in a bad position right now, too.
A lot of comparisons between C.J. Stroud and Robert Griffin III on my timeline the past couple days.
That's what I've been saying.
I saw somebody do a side-by-side comparison of C.J. Stroud and Blake Bortles' year two numbers.
You should get out of here.
And Blake Bortles had better numbers.
Oh, no.
Then again, you could play that game with Josh Allen, too, and it's going to be the same conversation. Yeah. Not every process is the same, right? But
it's not.
It does, I think, lend itself to the idea that if you are going to build something around a quarterback, and there's the age-old discussion, would you rather protect him or give him a legitimate number one target? If you're going to go the target route, you better be right. Because while Roma Dunze, I think, has had a decent season, he's got 700-something yards this year, he has not risen to the Jamar Chase level. He has not given them the same level of production that Cincinnati had when they made the same decision. That was the discussion that was happening in Chicago. Would you rather double down and get Caleb a tackle early in this draft? They could have had Olu Fashanu to protect him and really double down on keeping him upright. Or would you rather have an elite weapon where you feel like, hey, we got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Roma Dunze. Well, it turns out DJ Moore is really good. Keenan Allen is kind of washed. And Roma Dunze is still figuring this out and is not a legitimate number one target day one, the way I think a lot of people thought he could be.
Yeah, and I think that, that's the thing they look back at now. They kind of knew Nate Davis was not going to probably work out, even though they planned for him to have a starting position. There was a lot of talk in the offseason of, oh, God, what is Nate Davis doing? And clearly, and he's one piece to that line puzzle, but he was nowhere to be found. And then they got rid of him. And again, it goes back to showing you the Titans have drafted an offensive lineman in the past 2 drafts, but they needed to. Yeah. And they're still needing more offensive linemen. That just goes to show sometimes being boring, you got to be boring sometimes in the draft to really build that line. That's how important that line is. If you have a quarterback you're unsure of or you don't know yet what that quarterback will be.
Yeah, it's fascinating, too, looking at they did draft a rookie this past year, and he had this in the 3rd round.
Lineman?
Right? Yeah. I'm a Kyron. I'm not even going to mess up his last name, out of Yale. So they drafted him, and in his interview, he was just like, what's Bert? What's that?
You know what?
Oh, I don't know how to say his name. I do know he's a Chicago guy, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's from the area. He's always wanted to play for the Bears.
And there's a post of him after he's getting drafted asking about how he's going to protect Caleb Williams and everything. He was like, well, under my watch, he's not going to get touched. If you think about last week's game where he almost got his face torn off, it's like, bro, stop. We as players, we get hype. We feel invincible. Don't say that because he was a turnstile last week in this game. Like, I thought Caleb was going to die on the field on how hard he got hit.
Damn.
And Darnell Wright, I think, has struggled at times as well this season at right tackle for them.
Yeah, he has. He's had his issues.
Year 2.
His like turning and opening up the gate too soon has to be corrected, fast. And he's too big of an athlete, too much of an athlete, too strong to be getting pushed around the way he does at times.
I just think for these quarterbacks, it depends on who the quarterback is when you talk about whether you would go protect them or get them a weapon. Joe Burrow benefited a lot from having a dude that could get open quickly.
He got injured a lot, too.
Jamar Chase. He did. Jared Goff has benefited a lot from having Penei Sewell.
Yes, he has.
And having somebody that can protect him. And obviously they found value in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who, if you were redrafting that draft, is a first-round pick, no question. And they ended up getting him, on day 3 after the Titans drafted Des Fitzpatrick, I might add. So I think maybe for Caleb Williams, with the way he panics and escapes the pocket so quickly, someone to protect him in hindsight probably would have been better for his immediate growth in this league than getting him another weapon to throw it to, because they got to keep him in the pocket long enough to just find guys that are open. It just feels like he's got happy feet and is panicking too much. Yeah. I don't know. Just my very, very uneducated opinion.
No, I'm with you
That's
on
a part of it. The fact that he likes to scramble, too, doesn't help, to your point. It's quick. That's one thing about, having non-mobile guys is they're going to be where you want them to be.
Right. Sure. And I think with Caleb, too, you got to take the good with the bad, because he does a lot of good things off script. It's not always bad when he gets out and runs and creates something. You want to foster that in a good way. But in doing so, you have to live with the fact that he's going to make some really bad throws and probably miss a second or third read because he's trying to do the hero thing too much and throw to his first guy in a scramble drill situation and allow him to get open and force a defender to commit. It is just the roller coaster you play with a rookie quarterback. And here locally, Titans fans have got to decide whether or not they're ready to do that now or would rather bring a guy into a better situation in a couple of years.
I also want to throw this out real quick. We were talking about just last year and some of these draft picks. It is crazy to think we had this conversation so much about Brock Bowers, even here in Tennessee. And would you take a chance on him? And there's reasons why, the Rams wanted to move up and get him. I mean, this guy has been tearing it up. Excuse me, Raiders. Yep. Yeah. This guy has been traded or tearing it up this season when it comes to the NFL as a tight end.
Yeah.
And in an organization that has not been good, there's not really a quarterback there. So those are one of those guys, too. Sometimes you do roll the dice and it hits. So,
Yeah, I saw Diana Orsini just tweeted about that, about how
the Rams tried to trade up.
Yeah, they tried to move up, and he's got 15 more receptions than any rookie tight end in NFL history.
Yeah, it's wild.
Should Brock Bowers be rookie of the year?
Dang near close. Because
that's a quarterback award.
15 more receptions than any rookie tight end in NFL history.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Pretty wild.
He is 5 receptions away from the most catches by a rookie in NFL history in general.
I almost feel like you got to give that to him then. I know it's a quarterback award, but damn.
You
on
know,
a team that's not good.
You know what you do? You draft for what works for your team as the lessons, right?
Yeah.
Right, and the Raiders were still bad, right? Like so they have an elite player for years to come. But they had to bite the bullet and understand that might not result in wins immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It's the other question you got to ask if you're the Titans. Are you taking the best possible player or the best fit for what you need positionally in terms of value and cornerstone pieces over the next 5 years? Another bigger discussion we'll have this offseason. Coming up next, voice of the Titans, Mike Keith will join us. We'll talk Titans Jags, hit the Titans headlines with our next to last game day visit with the VOTT next.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson telling you about my friends at O'Charlie's, Nashville staple, built back in 1971 here. They're going to give you that true Southern comfort food experience and not hand out the big bill in the end. I know a lot of you have probably ate a lot of food over the holidays, or just maybe you've been cooking it and you want to get away from that from the afternoon, get a little lunch in you. They've got their specials all week long. Maybe you want a good option for lunch, like I was saying. Get O'Charlie's $9.99 lunch hour combo. You can choose between 2 items and a drink. It's just going to cost you $9.99, and that runs Monday through Friday, 11 to 3 p.m. Check out their also VIP menu. They've got tons of meals on there for a great price. Remember, you can always get more flavor, more choices, and more value all day, every day at O'Charlie's.
RKW continues on this Football Friday. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, previewing Titans and Jags Sunday here on The Zone, courtesy, of course, of our good friends at Titans Radio, including the VOTT, voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, who joins us on the show this morning. Mike, hope it was a Merry Christmas for you and your family. How are you this morning?
I'm well, and it was wonderful. And by the way, congratulations on your news. That was very exciting.
Thank you. Made the
I
holiday.
wish you posted more pictures.
Look, it is a funny situation you get in because I feel like it is all I think about and all I want to post about. And there's, I don't know. It's just, it's really exciting.
Well, good for you. That's the way you should be, in all seriousness.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mike. Looking ahead at Titans and Jags this weekend, Mike, as you look at this Jaguars team, we talked when this first meeting happened about how many close losses they had and how close they had been with or without Trevor Lawrence at that point of their season. And we saw the downside of that in what their defense could do and what Mac Jones could do on a game-winning drive with Brian Thomas getting in the game. As you look at this team now, a couple weeks removed from that, and the rebuild that they are in as well, what impresses you about this Jacksonville team, not only for this weekend, but moving forward as they try to hang their hat on something positive to close the season?
Well, let's start with Brian Thomas Jr. So in the first half of the game, he had 2 targets and no catches back on December 8th. According to Jeff Lageman, who does radio for Jacksonville, Mac Jones was told, do not check away from any plays called where the ball is to go to Brian Thomas. So in the last 2.5 games, the last 5 halves of football, he's had 37 targets, 27 catches, 323 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's over 1,000 yards receiving. And, I mean, this guy is just lighting it up left and right. And he was the other guy at LSU in this draft. Malik Neighbors was the surefire, and Malik Neighbors is good. He's really good. But Brian Thomas is as good, and they haven't had a guy like this since Jimmy Smith. They really haven't. They've had some nice receivers over the years, but they've never had anybody who scares you the way he does. And so you start there, and you've got to believe after he's gotten 14 and 13 targets in the last 2 games that if he doesn't have double-digit targets on Sunday at Everbank Field, it's going to be a massive surprise. So I think you start there, and what do you do with him with a secondary that, has done a pretty decent job in spite of the fact that the guys that were lined up to play for the Titans this year in the secondary, as the group before the season, Snead and Awuzie and Diggs and Hooker and McCrary, those 5 guys played together for roughly 100 snaps this year. So you've had to make a lot of adjustments during the course of the season, and you're going to have some of those people available on Sunday, certainly not all of them. What do you do with Thomas?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it all has to start, because they're just not going to play. And the other thing too, Will, they're going to want to run the ball to see if the Titans can stop the run after what happened last weekend. I mean, if Ramon talks about it all the time about how in his career people tested things about him to see if he'd figured out things, if things that he had done wrong, mistakes he'd made, if he had not corrected them, they were just going to keep doing it. Well, I mean, you've got to believe that's what they're going to do with the run game. I would, wouldn't you?
Heck yeah.
Absolutely, Mike. And I think it brings up a good point as well. You talk about the secondary, the snaps those guys had played. The inside linebacker position, as you know, has been cursed, Mike, this season. And I know the Ernest Jones trade changes that arithmetic a little bit early in the season. But even a guy like Otis Reese, who was rising to the occasion in a really, really big way, can't catch a break. And you go back to Chance Campbell in preseason. I mean, it's unbelievable the level of attrition at that position. Then you have Cedric Gray come in and show you some flashes. And James Williams is making a position transition, Mike. Just how unique has that challenge been? And what can this staff pinpoint in a guy like Cedric Gray to say, okay, we can work with that? Because, as you know better than anybody, your number is called fairly or unfairly. You got to step up to the plate when it is called, and it's being called for a lot of different numbers right now.
Well, like Jack Gibbons did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Chance Campbell was doing. Like Luke Gifford has done. And I think there's a real chance you're going to get Luke Gifford back this week, which is huge. You mentioned Otis Reese. I mean, the impressive thing about Otis, he'll go hit anything, but he was also doing a good job in pass coverage. And for these young linebackers, you know, reading those sorts of keys in the pass, they didn't have to do a lot of it last week, but I mean, that's a whole thing. And I mean, Gray and Williams are both talented young guys, but they haven't seen a whole lot. And they're going to be forced to see more if they have to play more in the last two games. And while they had good tackle numbers, and certainly both of them trigger, and you know, when they get there, they hit hard and they're willing to take on contact, they still don't know everything to do. Frank Bush is a really good coach, and you've seen him coach up all of these guys. I mean, think about how many linebackers have played well at different times in this defense. Kenneth Murray, moving to middle linebacker, played better. We mentioned Gibbons and Campbell and Reese and, you know, Gifford. On and on and on, guys have stepped up, and then they've gotten hurt, and now you're having to go to rookies, and you're going to have to ask them to try to do more if they're forced to play on Sunday.
Mike Keith with us today, man, discussing the Titans, Jaguars. Mike, when it comes down to this upcoming weekend, you mentioned a second ago, your tape travels, and J.C. Latham's, you know, has got to find a way to correct his own mishaps. One of those mishaps was the sack given up by Josh Hines Allen on that play, on the blind side play before half, man. How intense and intent does J.C. Latham have to be this upcoming weekend, especially with whatever crowd's going to be in Jacksonville, too, to go up against him?
Ramon, I thought he played better in Indianapolis, didn't you?
Yeah, he did. He did.
I thought he kind of, if he was in a quote-unquote downturn or a slump, I thought he kind of leveled that off some. And, you know, maybe it's because he's getting a little more healthy, too. But yeah, I mean, sure, you've got to be motivated by that, don't you? I mean, that's a Sports Center play, and it turned out to be a play that was a fine because they drove your quarterback into the ground. Yeah. And I mean, you've got to be aware of that. I mean, JC is in a lot of ways having a similar year to what it felt like Peter Skoronski went through last year. He shows the flashes of being a good player, but he also shows the inexperience. What he has done in most cases, though, is you've seen him continue to learn as he's gone against an array of really good pass rushers this year. And he's going to see a couple this week, and then next week we think that he'll see Hunter and Anderson, both of whom who have double-digit sacks. So you got to be ready for that. But I mean, it's learning on the job. I mean, when the Titans chose to draft a left tackle and not go out and sign the veteran left tackle, and those are the choices you have to make. You can't go sign everybody, but you knew you were going to have to live with some of this. And I still think overall he's going to be a wildly successful player, like what we're seeing Pete become at left guard. But it's just time, man. I mean, it is just time on task, and he is getting his 10,000 hours in this year, and it's hard. It's really, really hard, especially when you're out on that island and everybody can see you. And if I'm wrong about this, correct me. I don't think they've helped him much either, have they, Ramon?
No, he's been on an island by himself for the most part because, you know, there's one glaring side of that offensive line.
Right, so they've had that needs the help. Right, I mean, you can't help everybody.
No, you cannot.
And so they have chosen to help the right side in those instances where they've given help. But the other thing about this offense, too, is they've been in so many predictable down and distance situations with the score against them that people have been able to tee off. Mm-hmm. And that will show the weakness to a greater degree Just like that play at the end of the half. Yeah. At that moment, Josh Hines-Allen, who had not been a factor in the first half, knew exactly what was coming. And so he took a chance, and he won big. He ran around JC because he thought, okay, I can beat him with this move because I know what they're going to do and where that quarterback is going to be, because it was an obvious situation. JC has been placed in too many of those moments this year, unfairly to him, by down distance and score situations. He's had a hard way to do it, and I think he's going to come out on the other side a much better player. I expect year 2 for him will look a lot like Peter Skoronski's year 2.
No doubt. Mike, you said a word, man, that I feel like we've talked about a good bit, and we're speaking about just the overall, results of the season after the fact, just a little bit. But it was time. Coach Callahan having time, the front office potentially having time too. Where are you on as far as the conversation of wanting to fix it right now, but the only way to do it is watch and see, Mike?
Well, the difficulty when you make change is that you've made change. That's the whole thing. And you think about the change that we have had since 2022. The general manager is fired in December. So you're going to start over with what your philosophy is. The end of last year, the head coach is fired. So you bring in a new head coach. You put someone in charge of football operations in Chad Brinker. You up the role of the general manager, Rand Carthon, and then new staff, completely new systems on both sides of the ball. If you don't like how things are going, if you don't feel like things are working properly, you make change. That's what you do in business. But when you make change, you've made change. And so everything changes for everyone involved again. Just like for Will Levis had a completely different system this year with a whole new group of coaches, and that's the way it goes. But it also means that you have to accept that philosophy is going to be there. So what you have to weigh in any of those situations is not only the short term, but what the long term is. And, those are way above my pay grade. So, I just know that for the Titans, when the Titans organization chose to make the changes that they did, you accept that this is a possibility. Because you understand you've had something in place for a period of time and you decide it's not getting you far enough, and so you're going in a different direction. And that's where we are at this point. If you look at it that way, I think you just have to be totally clear-eyed about it.
Mike Keith, the VOTT, joining us this morning on RKW. Calvin Ridley going back to his old stomping grounds. And yes, I know he faced him once this year, but he seemed a little bit more excited in the locker room about going down there, Mike. He's 143 away from reaching another 1,000 receiving yard season. What have you liked about him so far this year where maybe it took a minute to get him going?
First of all, I just like him. I like Calvin.
Mm-hmm.
I like his personality. I like that when he was playing poorly early in the year, he doubled down and started working harder and, working with Tyke Tolbert, working with the sports performance coaches, working on his speed, worked on everything. And I think his commitment to practicing and his commitment to getting better is something that is really evident in his level of play, particularly the second half of the year. Calvin's a threat, and being able to have that threat, just like on that 6-play drive for the first touchdown, it was 3 short passes and 2 runs. Gus Bradley's defense plays to where they don't give up big plays, but oh, by the way, because you've had a couple of runs and 3 short passes, they start to creep a little bit, and then you get the matchup you want. You get Ridley on Samuel Womack, who's a nice player, but he's not as fast as Ridley, and then you get the touchdown. And, so that's scheme, that's philosophy, that's being able to use a player the right way. Calvin gives you something. Calvin really gives you something different in this offense. I'd like to see him get all 143 this weekend.
Right.
It'd be fun if they're able to get in the sort of game where they could target him the same way the Jaguars want to target Brian Thomas. Again, it's about that type of game, though. You got to get in that. You can't just say it. You've got to be able to be in that type of game. And if they can, that would be absolutely super, because I like what he brings, and I like what he gives you towards the future as well. He certainly can be a building block in this offense as they continue looking at different things going forward.
Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, has been our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will at TENN Voice, where you follow him on social media. Mike, hope it was a great Christmas. Happy New Year to you, and we will talk to you for the final game week preview next week. Hard to believe it's already there.
I know. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. There's Mike Keith talking Titans and Jags here with us this morning. 615-737-1045, a chance to catch up on your phone calls. There is a trend going on at small college football programs, and I'm very curious if it is going to work, because another team is now joining this trend as of maybe this morning. We'll talk about that next.
It's Ramon Foster Hill of Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Y'all are still giving away cash for the holidays. Yeah, we got New Year's, and guess what? This is when this deal ends on New Year Day. Listen to me. Right now, you can get a $500 Visa gift card when you buy a select new HVAC system or new whole home generator. They're also giving away $250 Visa gift cards when you buy new tankless water heaters. If you hadn't had one, they are clutch. Go ahead and get that $250 Visa gift card on top of that, man. They got other deals available like the $99 drain cleaning special. There's no better time to take care of your home than right now. Get these deals while you can. For more details, visit happyhiller.com.
Boogieing through the final segment of hour number 3 this morning. RKW, Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, 615-737-1045. There is a trend happening in college sports, and it's because of Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants Deion without actually having Deion. So, you know the story from last week, right? Norfolk State has hired Michael Vick to be its new head football coach. Well, now you have this story from ESPN.com this morning that former Eagles wide receiver Deshaun Jackson and Delaware State are finalizing an agreement for him to become the program's next head coach. He did an on-campus interview in recent days. The sides are expected to come together to complete the deal in the near future. A source tells ESPN.com it has always been a dream of Deshaun Jackson's to coach at an HBCU, a historically black college or university. The 38-year-old Jackson would replace Lee Hull, who was dismissed earlier this month after 2 bad seasons, including a 1-11 showing this season. What do we think about this? Do you think this is a good idea for a program like Delaware State? And is it a good model to follow for programs like this and HBCUs and FCS programs that want to follow the Jackson State model and what Deion Sanders did there?
In just these 2 to 3 minutes is most we've ever talked about Delaware State.
Well, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Amen.
That's part of it right there. My only contingency is the same thing that I said about Deion and the folks that hired him when he was at Jackson State too. If the intent is correct and you know you're really wanting to pour into the university and not use it as a stepping stone for something else, I'm all for it. I just did not at any point all this year have Deshaun Jackson as a college football head coach. I didn't even know he was coaching. I looked up his track record so far. He's coaching right now at Woodrow Wilson High School in Long Beach, California. So he's been there. They went 6-6 this year. It brings eyes to an HBCU school, though, is what it does. But you also have to recognize on how fragile those schools are as far as funding, as far as all things going into the operation. So if his intent is great and he going to put a staff together and they won't be a laughing stock, 100%. I just didn't have Deshaun Jackson on my bingo card as a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a trend that has been started by Deion Sanders, no doubt about that. He set the kind of start of all of this where we're hearing a little bit more about these former players. And you can say, yes, it's kind of out of nowhere. But like Ramon said, Deshaun Jackson was coaching a little. And we just don't talk about a lot of these players after the fact unless they're doing broadcasting. But a lot of these players are doing things that are more so their passion after playing. If he is telling the truth, that is something he's wanted to do. Michael Vick, I don't necessarily think I pegged him as being a coach, but this is something he's putting on himself of, I'm putting my name out there too to be a coach. I mean, it's also their name on the line. I mean, if they go there to those HBCUs and embarrass themselves and embarrass the university, that's no good on them. People know who they are. I think it's a good thing overall for HBCU programs to, like you said, get their name on the map. Absolutely. If they really think and they have the tools to put together a staff. That's key, right? It's not just them. They've got to put together the right staff and have the right connections to be able to, put a program out there that's going to be successful. If those guys can prove it, bring on more of the former players that want to be coaches. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that Deion Sanders did really, really well was he brought on veteran NFL assistants who could help him manage a staff and manage a program. I mean, bringing in Pat Shurmur as offensive coordinator was significant for Deion Sanders at first. I think in the FCS level specifically, half the battle is generating interest and acquiring talent, especially at the FCS level. If you've got a fan base and a crowd and resources within an organization that gives a crap, then that is half the battle right there. And I think with FCS football, that's where it gets challenging because a lot of FCS programs have fan bases that if they played against the team in the area that they're a fan of at the FBS level, they'd probably cheer for the FBS team, right? A lot of Chattanooga fans are Chattanooga fans, but if they play the Vols, like who are they really cheering for, right? Like Tennessee Tech, things like that. If you can generate an additional level of interest and buzz because you want to rally behind a figurehead, someone who is recently done this and can recruit a higher level of athlete, you've already done so much work to elevate your program. And that continues after that guy leaves. And I know the way Deion Sanders unceremoniously left Jackson State in a lot of ways, he catches a lot of flack for that. And some of that's probably warranted. But we still talk a lot more about Jackson State football now than we did before Deion Sanders. And that program was elevated with facilities and with attention and with buzz because of that impact. I think it's great for HBCU football. I think it's great for these young coaches who now have opportunities to fail and mess up at places where they'll be given time to mess up and also figure it out. I think it's a win for all parties. I think it's a win for Deshaun Jackson and Mike Vick, someone I know, Ramon, you played with, who you think really, really highly of.
Really smart guy is what I say about Vick. I mean, he's a quarterback in an old school era. I say old school. Dang, we there already, early 2000s? In an older era of football where you had to actually learn. And I've been around Vick speaking about offenses. Now, it's one thing to speak about, it's another thing to coach it, right, and teach it. And that's where he's going to have to run himself into. And also this, too. I think when Deion left, I'm more than sure he left him with a great care package. TV deals. I know he ended up getting merchandise at Jackson State. There's a lot that went into it. And if you also look at the logistics of Delaware State, too. I mean, Dover, Delaware. But they're in between Jersey, Maryland, Pennsylvania, D.C. So he's in his world. It's just that what is funding going to look like, Will, on the front end of this? What is winning, losing, and who can you actually come into the city of Dover to be a part of what Delaware State's got going on? And so it's not like he's in no man's land. He's in a great location to bring guys that may have issues with grades or whatever else be the case.
But that's part of it too. I like the, being able to have the NFL experience. It's not always a good experience. You have to go through adversity as an NFL player. Those two both managed to do that, right? They both had their issues in the NFL and were able to come back and learn things from those. I think teaching some of these young men who look up to these kind of players, even though they're far before them, they know those names. And for them to share their experiences in life and some of those things they did that they possibly regret or just say, hey, we learned from them. I like that too, being able to share that with young men who may have had similar upbringings or who don't, they don't know yet if they go to the NFL, the types of problems that they'll face. So I think that's really cool too, to get that one-on-one perspective.
100%.
Last night of the bowl game, something revolutionary happened. Did you guys see Rutgers, Kansas State, and the fake tush push?
I didn't see it.
They faked a QB sneak, and then they essentially rolled out left. And the quarterback, the snap goes directly to the running back, who rolls out left and waltzes into the end zone.
Nice play.
Look this up right now.
Could have got a holding call. Could have got a holding call.
Copycat league. We're going to see this in the National Football League very quickly.
Right? You might see it today.
I mean, it's a copycat league. They can't wait to steal something from another coach. You remember, what was it, the Statue of Liberty play that Boise ran?
Yes. Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma.
How many times did we see that on the high school level? Everybody was doing a Statue of Liberty play. But yeah, that play grew some legs last night, man.
That's so funny.
It did. It was awesome to see, though. I will say that. But I'm happy for DJ. I kind of want to see what it's going to turn into.
Did you know him at all? I know that you
did
knew
not.
Vic. Okay.
Did not. I saw him run over us a few times, but I didn't know.
Right?
I know. No, Deshaun Jackson.
I don't know if Deshaun Jackson's running through many tackles. He can run around.
He can run around. He's a thinner guy.
Electric is the word.
He was.
Definitely. Did he get us? Golly, I don't want to go down this lane. He got us a cow, too, I feel like.
Yes, he did.
Speaking of another guy who got you, the only loser in this scenario, in my opinion, is Bethune-Cookman and Ed Reed. Ed Reed would still be down there if you just had a cleaner campus. All he wanted y'all to do was clean the meeting rooms, and he would still be your coach. But you guys couldn't do that. 25 days as the head coach of Bethune-Cookman.
I forgot about that.
He went in too hot, man. He went in there exposing folks. He went live.
Funny.
We know we're messed up down here. Don't expose us to the world, Ed.
Come on, man.
That's great.
Oh, Bert.
That rant was rough, man. He maybe shouldn't have dropped so many F-bombs.
Yeah.
That could've helped.
He tried to play to Will. He's his own guy. He's a Hall of Famer.
yeah.
And he's a new capper now, too, by the way.
He's
Shout
also
out to him.
Jaquan's Jackson's uncle.
Is he? Well,
Yeah.
here's what I'm telling you. There's only one Dion. You can't go in acting
No.
like him and trying to be authoritarian and just be the guy on day one. Like
He does it so cool too.
It was too
Like
hot.
he's so
Who,
cool.
Dion?
Like Dion. That's the
Yeah,
thing about
Dion,
Dion. He's
he was
always been
solid,
able to
but-
pull certain things off because he just
He's
does it
got
with
a
the
silver
cool
tongue,
thing.
man. He's
Yeah.
good at it. Plus, to your point earlier, everybody looked up watching and admiring
Yeah.
him, so it's easy to listen to him too. Although, I mean, it's circumstantial on how you view and like about him. But I had
Kevin
a
Byard
poster.
might disagree with
I had
that.
a
but-
poster in my room of Dion. So
It's always easy to follow a guy like that when you know he's always going to stand 7 toes down for you. What?
you know
he's back with
what?
the
You can
jokes.
actually say that because you dogged your
Yeah,
dad with no
that's
thumb.
true.
My dad got 9.
Yeah,
Bert is an equal opportunity
Yeah.
hater.
he did have that surgery earlier
I
on
was
this year.
about to get like, Bert, what is wrong with you? But I realized your dad got 9 ditches on his hands.
He going to give you one thumbs
Oh,
up.
and by the way,
He can
we're
never review movies.
oh no. By the way, we're missing Eddie George right here in town.
We're not missing it. We know.
I mean,
we're not missing any.
But just to
We
put
know.
him in the name right now of
Just talk about the new
current.
ones. Just talk about the two that have been hired in the last week. Mike Vick
Put a shout out to him.
and Deshaun Jackson. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
shout out to
we talk
him.
about Eddie George and TSU.
Nuts, Bert.
Movie critic. My
Can never
God.
hitchhike.
I
with
give
his
this
right.
a thumb and a nub down.
Well, we're going to give one thumb up to the final hour of the show, which is coming up next. Ron Slay coming up at 9:20. We asked Brent Hubs about how other NIL collectives have caught up with Tennessee as the Vols go into the transfer portal and are not maybe getting as many targets or spending as much money as we are accustomed to. I thought Brent gave a really insightful answer that makes a lot of sense and gives a lot of context as to why the Vols have had some problems in the football transfer portal over the last couple of days. We'll reset that, turn the corner into hour 4 coming up next.
What's going on? 9:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. A huge stinker to close out Thursday night football as the Seahawks tank down the Bears 6-3. It is the fewest number of points in a victory this year, as well as the fewest number of points in a victory for Seattle as a franchise. Caleb Williams with some momentum late, but when faced with a 4th and 10, tossed an interception to Seattle's 22-yard line to end the game. Seahawks moved to 9-7 and need a little bit of help to get into the playoffs. They'll be watching the Rams-Cardinals game tomorrow night intently. Titans getting ready for their final road game of the year. Taking a look at Thursday's injury report, Tyler Boyd, Nick Folk, Amani Hooker, Dylan Radins, and Otis Reese all remain sidelined for the Jaguars. Left tackle Walker Little, Darnell Savage, Ventrell Miller, and Devon Hamilton all missing from the practice field as well. Had a good bowl game last night at the Game Above Sports Bowl. Toledo taking down Pittsburgh 48-46 in 6 overtimes. Tonight, we get Syracuse Orange taking on Washington State in the Holiday Bowl. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Nine a.m. and the fourth and final hour is here of RKW. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, produced by the one and only Robert Walsh. 615-737-1045. The number. Ron Slay in 15 minutes as we roll into the final hour of the week. Glad you're with us. Hope it was a good Christmas.
Hope so, too.
Maybe you got the gift cards out yesterday? Maybe you used a present for the first time. I went and used my new golf clubs for the first time and had a great time.
Nice. It was a pretty good day to golf out there.
Oh, it's terrific.
Was it? Yeah,
you get mid-50s in December. You take that, not to the bank, but you take that at the first tee.
Absolutely.
My wife had to, speaking of weather real quick, my wife had to give me a realization. She was like, Mom, you're from Tennessee. We don't have snow on Christmas here. We don't really have like a cold. I was just like...
Did 2 years ago.
Well,
sometimes.
I like in my mind that I picture Christmas being white with snow and then, we're inside. It's like, no, you're right. We live in Tennessee. It's rare. We get snow in January.
For the most part, it's decent weather for some. Now, I do like snow too for Christmas, but then I'd like it to go away the day after.
No, I like it for a few days. I like seeing it on the ground from here time to time.
Build a snowman or something.
Yeah, no, I just like it.
It was cool in Jersey the other day.
It was, yeah.
Was it snowing?
It was a white Christmas.
Okay, so it was snowing up there.
It snowed for like the 3 days before it.
Oh, okay. Nice.
It was just an easy 2 or 3 inches that just didn't slow down the world at all. That would end some little communities from getting out of their homes for days. Here.
All the bread, milk, and
It's really
eggs.
crazy. The roads are fine. You could walk on the sidewalk. You're good.
Easy to get in flight-wise.
Oh, yeah.
You said the airport was
all.
easy. Goodness.
It's half empty.
They know what they're doing.
I do have one gripe about Christmas, though.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I got to finally watch from the parents' eyes the eating of the cookies for Santa Claus. And I would like to say something.
You saw him eat the cookies?
I did see Santa Claus eat the cookies.
Wow.
When you leave those cookies out, Santa don't want no daggum healthy cookies. He don't want no almond milk. Santa wants whole milk, y'all. Santa is a big he needs strong bones for the year round. Santa don't. I saw my brother's. I'll call her. The common law, I guess. His wife, the mother of his child, put out some cookies that were like almond flour cookies.
Ew.
I went to sample one just because I'm looking out for the big fella. You know what I mean? I don't want the big fella to come down the chimney and have to eat something that tastes like a turd. So I nibbled on one. I wouldn't have fed it to the dog. So if y'all are out here putting cookies out for Santa, Santa ain't on Atkins. Santa ain't on Weight Watchers. Santa ain't doing none of that. Give Santa whole milk and the real cookies. That's what I'm talking about.
He said he prefers homemade, but he'll take an Oreo.
That's fine.
Right, an Oreo's okay.
An Oreo's way better than a dog
The
biscuit.
soft frosted cookies will absolutely be accepted by the big man.
Oh,
but
yeah,
let's
that's
keep
fine,
him
too.
the big man by not giving him almond milk and vegan nut cookies.
Yeah, ain't worried about ho 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 Zempic. He worried about staying. He's worried about staying thick for Smith's claws.
You tell him the sleigh ain't
With
got
two Qs. You hear me?
Yeah, the sleigh ain't got good suspension. He needs that cushion for the landings on roofs.
That's what I'm saying.
And the carrots are for the reindeers, not for Santa. So you got to put out something else besides the carrots.
That's crazy. That is a soapbox I feel like most are willing to stand on. Right?
I agree with you on that one.
That is a legit stance right there, Bert. I don't know how you got that going, but Robert Walsh 2025.
We would always do fudge in our family. We would put it next to the chimney, and Santa accidentally stepped in the fudge quite a bit. Like a boot print was often left.
I love that.
We got to move it over to a little end table.
I love that.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just dropping a little bit on his way up the chimney. That's all. Just showing that he was there.
I thought, never mind, I won't take it there.
Well, we won't go there, Dan. We will not go there then.
That's Robert Walsh on Christmas. Keep Santa fat in 2025.
Yeah.
What was your primetime gift? I feel like you got something.
Actually, I did get a bunch of stuff. I was telling Rep Brian earlier, this might be the best adult Christmas I have ever had. Oh. My brothers didn't get in a fight on Christmas. Nobody.
Hold up. With an S, brothers?
Brothers.
I thought you had one.
No, I got two stepbrothers.
Stepbrothers.
Two stepbrothers.
Okay. All right,
so they didn't get a knockout, drag-out brawl. My dad was in a good mood. My mom was in a good mood.
But I touched your drum set.
Everybody was killing it.
Was Cheyenne there?
Cheyenne was there. Cheyenne had a good Christmas. Cheyenne got everything she wanted.
Except for a ring.
Well, we'll figure
Kayla
something
stays
out.
on this ring thing.
We will
She is not going to let
out.
up.
We will
She
figure
is
something
not
out.
going to
The
let up.
playoffs are coming up. Hey, the Ravens going to the playoffs. Anything can happen. Cheyenne getting a ring is more certain now than it has been in the last 8 months.
Wow.
So if she wants one, that's all you got to do. Put the spirit into Lamar. When Lamar gets one, you'll get one, girl.
Instead of going to stadiums and saying school board.
Hey, she minded her own business this weekend. I said, this is a business trip. All right, we don't need to be coming in here hollering scoreboard. I said, don't even look at them. And I said, if you see a terrible towel on the ground, don't you dare blow your nose in it.
Don't
Stomp on it. That's witchcraft.
I can personally confirm that's a bad idea.
Do not touch them terrible towels.
Yeah.
That's great.
By the way, you ran into a friendly nemesis of mine this past weekend.
Hey, Haloti Nada was cool as hell, man. I said, hey, by the way, I do a morning show with Ramon in Nashville, and he said, hey, he was a really good player. I said, he hated playing against you, and he was like, he had some really good guys around him. He had a great left tackle.
The penalties were really solid.
He was a great player, man.
That's hilarious.
If I know him, he ain't say that one now.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Hey, we went through my stats last week. I held it down.
You did hold it down.
2016, you did.
He had nothing but great things to say about you.
Yeah, no, he was solid, dude.
That's
Big
cool.
Polynesian, man. I told you I wished you well, but I hoped you lose.
Hey, hope you have a great trip, but hope you lose.
Wish you well, but not too well.
That didn't happen.
That's absolutely right.
That did not happen.
I had a long losing weekend. Hell, it was losing on Christmas, too. I got to get back on track.
That's what, and guess what? He's not easy on you anymore, Bert. He told me on
I
Tuesday
did.
when he wins next time, he's going all in.
Between you and my homeboy Terrence, who's big Baltimore fans, I ain't ever letting y'all off the hook.
Hey, I didn't say nothing.
No.
I didn't say nothing. I didn't even talk about how Marlon Humphrey gonna steal Defensive Player of the Year from T.J. Watt off that pick six, baby. After he's number one in coverage, number two in coverage grades. What are we talking about?
That may be true. There might be a lot of truth to that. But what I'm telling you is this. I've received a lot of residual hate I was peaceful when the Steelers beat the Ravens last time. I ain't post the rat bird thing or none of that. Next time, hear me out. Unhinged, in the words of
When
Buck
have you
Rising.
ever been hinged?
Well, I've been suppressing.
Exactly.
I've been suppressing it because my other job. I tell you this, group chat's going to be hot.
Yep.
Moving on. Tennessee is in the transfer portal as the window closes tomorrow night in the college football world. We asked Brent Hubs earlier this morning, is it fair to say that Tennessee no longer has the NIL advantage that a lot of the SEC and other college football programs have? I thought Brent Hubbs gave a really interesting answer on why the Vols are not able to spend money in a way that is, I don't know, different from the LSUs and Auburns of the world as they used to.
That's a great question. And I think the one thing about Tennessee early on and why Tennessee was perceived to be the best out there, Tennessee was more organized than everybody was going early on. Tennessee had one collective. At one point, Florida had 3 or 4. LSU had a couple of different collectives. And, all these schools were just these little pop-up things going everywhere. Tennessee was always at one collective. There was one group handling everything at Tennessee. That allowed them to be more organized. That allowed the money to be pooled all into one place very early on. So Tennessee's advantage early on in the process was they were just more organized and had all the resources in one place. What's happened now is everybody has gotten down to one collective at their respective schools, and everybody is or not everybody, but the schools that have the money and have the strong fan base and the donor base once they've gotten themselves organized, they've gotten their pool of money up, and everybody's working in somewhat of a similar pool of money. Now, here's the thing we don't know about the money. We don't know exactly what the number is, right? I mean, allegedly, Ohio State spent somewhere between $20 and $22 million for the team they have on the field right now. I don't know if that number is 100% accurate or not, but that's the rumored number. Ole Miss, $20 million. I think Tennessee was closer to $15 million this past year. The amount of money being spent on football rosters is more than double the last 2 years. It's going up this year as well. So, it does get down to, at the end of the day, when you're trying to you don't have a, quote, salary cap, but you do have a limitation in the number of dollars that you have possession of. Okay? I mean, that's the reality of it. You're not passing go and getting an extra $200 every day to add to your bucket. I mean, there is a number that is a real number. And I think you have to decide as an organization, what are you slotting for what? Okay? And somebody's value is based on how much somebody will pay them. Okay? Say you have a player in the portal that you like and you're willing to pay, let's say $400,000. But player or school X is in a dire need for that position. I mean, and that's their target person that you're battling against. And they need that person so bad, they're going to give them $800,000. Well, then you have a choice. Are you going to compete financially, or do you say, we need a player there, but we're not that desperate for a player there. We're not going to match their offer. That's the world we're living in. I mean, we can call it whatever we want to call it, but that's the bidding war that's taking place right now. And everybody's got an agent, and everybody's trying to play one against another to get the amount of money that they can get. And organizations are trying to get a handle on this. It's funny because there's a lot of people, and I'm rambling here, but there's a lot of people talking about general managers. Oh, you got to have a general manager and for football, which I don't necessarily disagree with. My question is, in college football, who's qualified to be a general manager? Anybody that's worked in the NFL front office is dealing with multi-year contracts, salary caps. Hey, we got this guy for a 3-year deal. We don't have to worry about him for 3 years. Okay? On the college side of things, you got to recruit your player every year, in some cases every month, to keep them there. You don't have a salary cap to deal with. So how qualified is an NFL person to be a college GM? Conversely, who in the college space is qualified to deal with the money side of it that they're dealing with for the first time? It is very much a learning curve in the college game right now. And those who learn the best, the quickest, are going to manage this thing better. Just like Tennessee was out of the gates faster than everybody else from a collective standpoint because they had experienced guys and they were organized. That's where college football is in terms of roster management right now.
It's a very long, detailed answer, but I think everything Brent Hubbs says there is really interesting and I think is significant. The headline of that answer, guys, is that Tennessee no longer has the logistical advantage in name, image, and likeness that it had when NIL began. How the staff figures out ways to continue to acquire high-level talent without that advantage is critical for the next couple of years of Tennessee football. It's a big deal.
It is. And on top of that, specifically in the SEC, everybody's is in an arms race.
They've caught up.
Yeah.
Everyone else has caught up.
Mm-hmm. Auburn has gotten their house together.
Yep.
Florida has gotten their house together. Texas has been having theirs together, right? So, yeah, you do have to be unique moving forward. That conversation about how do you pick a GM to manage these rosters and salaries, though, I think is more complicated than people really want to.
100% of this. Yep.
And then the other side is you got this 40-plus-year-old person probably that's trying to convince like a 17-year-old, you're not worth $150,000 a month. You know what I'm saying?
And agents in college football can just be like Uncle Charlie.
Yeah.
Or like your brother-in-law.
Yeah.
You don't have to be accredited. You don't have to be a legitimate from NFL guidelines agent the way you do in professional football. You can just be a family member that is ripping you off because they're in it for them, not you.
I think 3HL Bab said that there's over 5,000 kids in the portal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What decisions you think, how many of those decisions have been made because uncle or mom or auntie?
The camp. We hear that a lot.
The camp.
Their camp wants them to XYZ.
And now they're stuck.
Like Cam Carr at Tennessee basketball.
Absolutely.
Coming up, Ron Slay joins the discussion. We can hit all these topics with him. If you listen to Ron Slay on this show, you know that we are going to let Ron Slay take us where Ron Slay takes us, then we're going to adjust. There's no point even me wasting any more breath and talking about what we might talk about. We'll let Slay do his thing coming up next. RKW 104.5, The
Hell yeah.
Zone rolls on here in hour number 4. Full crew in studio. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, joined via the powers of the telephone this morning with our good friend Ron Slay of 3HL and SEC Network. Slay, how was your Christmas, sir? How are you?
What's happening, good people? What's happening, good people, man? I'm just, Christmas was good, Willie. I ain't got no complaints, man. It's always cool seeing, everybody open up gifts, put smiles on faces, you know what I'm saying? And, and then sit back, eat, fall asleep. Then get back up, eat again, fall back to sleep. I think that's the way to go. And like Savage always say, it's better to give than receive on this day. So, you know what I mean? That's what I'm out here doing, man. You know what I mean? Now I'm playing Uncle Slay going over here to work this basketball camp.
Nice.
Slay ride basketball camp with the little tykes, the little 4th and 5th graders, you know what I mean? Getting to it over here on this good day, man.
But they won't see a human fried turkey walking around, though, will they?
Not today, although I did just pass about 25 turkeys. I'm trying to figure out how they made it.
That's so funny.
I don't know how they made it.
I said all the time, they around my neighborhood
Survival
like crazy. I'm like,
skills.
they know when to hide. I got a feeling. Oh, we need to be asking Bert. Bert, do you still feel like the turkeys know when to come out and play and when they need to hide?
I think they come around here because y'all don't know how to shoot up here. Y'all ain't got no good. Y'all ain't got no good
Shots
snipers
fired,
up here.
literally.
I can't wait. I can't wait to take the 22 out today. Is what I'm telling you. Okay.
Whoa, okay.
Never mind. The game
Armed and
warden.
dangerous.
Game warden probably gonna come by the house. Never mind. We're good. I lied. You can check the ballistics on that
Oh,
one.
goodness.
I think the ballistics.
Yeah. What's seven? You got him, Will? You want me to take him? You
Well,
got him.
Slay, I know you've heard some of our conversation with Brent Hubs about Tennessee's NIL collective and free agency and the way these things all evolve in 2024 going into 2025. And with Tennessee basketball right now, you got a similar but also different scenario, right? Cam Carr gets hurt, decides, well, let me keep my value where it is now. If I come in and be the 9th guy, on the Tennessee basketball team, even if they are ranked first, my number for next year, if I want to go in the portal or if I want to stay, might not be as big as it could be if I just go ahead and go out now. What do you make of the camps that all of these players seem to have, Slay? Like it is so challenging, I think, for so many of us because everyone's camp may or may not have the player's best interest at heart in these situations either. And not all camps, quote unquote, a word we continue to use, are created equally, are they?
No, they're not. And I think it's chaos. And the funny thing about it, it's been chaos. It's just now being able to be played out. What needs to happen is these stories need to be done where it's shining a light on these kids, on these camps. Hold on, I'm trying to make sure I'm at the right school. Oh, here we go. Hey, I'm trying to it need to be a story shine on these camps and these stories of these kids that's failing and these kids that's stuck in the portal. Like, we need to see these nightmare stories. It's all good to hear about the kids that's getting an $8 million contract to go to Duke and, people being taken care of. All that's fine and well. But the thing is, man, what's happening to the other majority of the kids that are being left out and those camps as well? You know what I mean? When the money is eaten up and not taken care of properly, like, where are these kids now? I think that needs to be front and center, especially with people taking advantage of these kids, man. And it's not only that, but the funniest thing about it is it's not only happening now, it's been happening. Yeah. This has been something that's always went on, you know what I mean? And nobody ever said anything. So to pull the curtain back, I'm dealing with a situation now that where you can get burnt like this, regardless of you knowing, and they can walk it back and go and try to garnish something 20 years later. And it doesn't matter. And who's telling that story? And who is out there putting it on? And why are these kids listening to other people that have never walked in them shoes, that ain't never even managed a bank account before? That's the funny thing. So that's one part of it. The second part is I'm trying to figure out who the accountants are. Like, who are these people that's handling money for them, you know what I'm saying, putting them in position. Like, what's the big fella? Big Baycott from North Carolina.
Armando Baycott.
Great investment, man. You know what I'm saying? But how many of those stories don't get told, you know what I'm saying, to go about it the right way? So
to see a guy like Cam Carr walk away from a number one team in the nation where you know you're going to get playing time, regardless if you're the 7th, 8th, or 9th man, that doesn't matter in college basketball anymore. Is if you're winning or you getting more skilled, whatever it may be, because you see plenty of people getting drafted that average 6 points. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So none of that really matters. It's all about the paycheck, where you're trying to go to. And from what I understand, well, I ain't going to say it, but yeah.
I'm going to force you to say it now because here I go, okay? Go ahead.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. Well, it must be serious if you say
Yeah, I can't
okay.
All right.
Never mind. We won't let that one out the bag then. Just know Savage knows, okay? With that being said,
Savage always knows.
Savage always knows. With that being said, though, Savage, you had some time on your show to discuss it before. The morning crew that might not have gotten the 3HL, which is a shame. Listen to all of us, okay?
Yeah, what the heck?
What is your stance on Cam Carr and the decision to leave? And be as touch and go as you want to about it, but describe your era of something like this would happen, and also, if you can, be understanding of this one.
In this situation, man, it's hard for me to grasp because I've always been one not to run from competition. This is a different generation of an athlete. I think I had a certain situation. I can only date back to the times that I had. I had a situation similar where I got hurt going into the season, into sophomore year, coming off the freshman campaign that I had. Sophomore year, I'm coming into it, and our team is back-loaded, if not loaded even more. And I had a meniscus tear where I was out for 4 to 6 weeks. So after getting healed, I came back, and, like, we were already playing. So the pecking order was established. I came back knowing that I don't know what y'all going to do, but y'all about to find some time for me, or y'all gonna look like fools. But that was my competitive spirit, knowing that I got an all-SEC performer ahead of me at both spots, at the center spot and the forward spot and the small forward spot. Well, you know Vincent Yarbrough ain't coming out the game. So it's just like, what are you willing to go and get and go to sacrifice to go and get your spot? In this situation, him walking away, man, this to me is a lack of competitive spirit, in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had a great campaign last year, had some good moments in the tournament. He was coming into a spot where you have guards in this situation that are going to, you're going to need to play. You know what I mean? It can be a 4 or 5 man rotation at the guard spot, especially with one of your bigs going down. So one of them guards going to have to slide to the 4 spot, which opens it up more for you. So I just don't understand walking away middle of the year. Okay, at the end of the year, you're unhappy with how things are going, but the middle of the year when you're on the number one team in the country and you haven't lost the game, that doesn't register to me. It's something else that has to be going on or being advised by somebody else that it really don't make sense to me, man. And I am sympathetic to it in some cases because sometimes it's better to move on. In this case, I can't find why you would move on.
And it's, so going into the rest of this season for the Vols and just college basketball in general, the SEC, man, specifically, second half is when it gets real serious. They might have 1, maybe 2 more, I like to say, just cupcake games, man. What's the expectation for the SEC going into the second half?
Man, a gauntlet, dog. A real, true gauntlet. Like, this is, I mean, from top to bottom, man. The good thing about this SEC season will be there will be no bad losses. Everything that even your losses will be a quad 2 or a quad 1 loss. You know what I'm saying? So that's a testament to the power of the SEC, the quality of it, the coaching of it, the talent of it, and it being held in high regard because of what you got. Now the thing is, you got to be able to get to a Final Four. You know what I'm saying, when you look at the overall aspect of it. But, man, it's going to be fun. I think you got Auburn, Alabama, and Tennessee, to me, being the ones that at any given night can win a national championship. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way they have the depth, the veteran leadership, the experience. All of them have 3-point guards that are all SEC. All of them have a big or a wing that is a key cog to anything they're going to do. And then you look at Auburn. Auburn got the best player in the country in Janai Broome. You look at Alabama, Mark Sears, knowing that old system like the back of his hand, he was at the Final Four last year for a reason, and they came back reloaded. Then you look at Tennessee. The guy Ziegler should be right there in the talks of one of the 3 teams of All-Americans this pick. When you see the leadership that he's done as far as, assisting and not worrying about how he's getting his buckets, he's playing more freely and still defense being his calling card. So, man, it's going to be interesting to watch. You got Vanderbilt, the newcomers, with Byington and him and Mark Pope, both playing similar styles. They'll be active throughout the season. They'll win some games they're not supposed to. They'll lose some games they're not supposed to. But all of them will be quality losses or wins. Then you got South Carolina, Dennis Gates from Missouri trying to get back rolling. Florida is another team. They will be in that top tier as far as having an outside chance to win a national championship. The list goes on, man. We ain't even Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma. All of it, man. All of it's gonna be serious. They just got to understand. They just got to understand what's gonna happen with injuries. Who can remain the healthiest? Mm-hmm. I think that right there, that'll bode well for any team that's trying to advance. But Tennessee right there, man, they got one of the best shots out there, dog. If they can stay healthy, especially already losing Estrella, it's some good things on the rise.
Slay Dog, it is Ron Slay joining us via the phone lines here. So I do have to ask you a couple Titans things here now that we got you on the line. We've had not a debate. We all kind of felt the same on this topic earlier on today, Slay. In terms of these last 2 games of the season, does it change your mind how the outcomes are, whether or not it changes your mind on you if you think Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan should stay or go, whatever camp you were in to start?
No, not at all. I'm still standing where I was. I think both of them should stay. They both inherited a barn full of cow manure, you know what I mean, and trying to sift through it or burn it, whatever they got to do. That's what they got to do to clean it up. So this is a job that cannot be, even if you start over and you go get somebody else in, new GM, new coach, whatever it is, new owner to some, whatever it is, this will not be settled in a year. You know what I'm saying? It just can't. The quick turnaround, and I understand the league. We hear Savage talk about it all the time. The parity in the league, that's the motto of it. You can't get parity just having a revolving door. It's not going to happen. You can forget about it. So we were bad to start. We still bad. So we still right here on ground zero. Yeah. Like, we didn't go further down. Like, we were still terrible. You still got some bright spots on both sides of the ball. You got some young talent, which you acquired in the draft. You got some guys that you signed that can be pieces, but you still need time to get out of this hole, man. This hole didn't come overnight. And it was all good. When we were sitting there watching the hole being dug, we just didn't know we was going to be the one thrown in the hole. So, it's almost like the Goodfellas scene, the last scene in Goodfellas when they took him out there and they put his brother in them, they made him dig the hole, and then they look up, it's them going in the hole. So, what you expect to happen? We still got to work our way out.
So when it comes to Will Levis's future here, it doesn't look clear right now because he's clearly not going to be going out there again this weekend unless something happens to Mason Rudolph. And it looks like he's going to be on the bench for the rest of the season. Do you keep him around, Slay, next year to compete or to possibly win a backup job? I think this is the most difficult question for this organization moving forward. What the hell do you do at quarterback?
Yeah, that's a great question, KK. That's a little bit above my pay grade on that one. So I ain't got a clue what you do with him. But I know one thing, man. He's had every opportunity to show who he is and who he can be, and I think he's shown that. So it's up to you to take what he's shown and read it, or you can put your blinders on and act like you can't read it clearly, and go back out there again with him. So yeah, it's a done deal in my estimate, but I mean, who am I? I ain't making no calls. If he hang around, good. If he don't hang around, what are we losing if he don't hang around? That would be my only question.
No doubt about it. Ron Slay with us here this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Slay, when you look at Tennessee football in the transfer portal, what's at the top of your wish list? What is the biggest thing you feel like Tennessee football has got to still improve in these final 36 hours of the transfer portal?
Receivers, and couple O-line pieces. I think, man, you gotta be able to get some separation. I think when it comes down to it, that's the only way to look at it, man. If you can get separation, you saw what it looks like to see an elite. You saw what it looks like to see elite, and it's a difference. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Also, outside of the portal, besides the offensive linemen and receivers, you got to take a look inside. You got to take a look inside and see what exactly you can do to better your team as far as defensive scheme, offensive scheme. Like Chip Kelly, man, that was an old Chip Kelly. I don't know. We've seen that Chip Kelly in about 6-7 years right there.
100%.
That was, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe you got to take heat your seat up or something and save a job or something if you want to roll with it. But good God, that was beautiful to watch, man. So, but it all goes hand in hand. You got to have elite NFL talent to be able to get out there and have separation like that in the college game, where you can have one guy dictate how you're going to do it, whether it be receiver, running back, quarterback, whatever it is. One person can take over the game in college football.
Ron Slay at 3HL and the SEC Network, Fridays at 9:20 here on RKW. Have a good time with the kids, Slay. Good stuff you're doing out there with the basketball camp, and hope you have a happy new year next week. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man, I'm putting all the kids in the boom boom room. They sign a waiver when they come in. How they come out, they ain't got nothing to do with us.
It's up to them.
Come in, it's like walking in a haunted house. Come in the boom boom room, you don't know what you're going to get. One thing it is an exit. Now, you get out of there, it's on you. Come out broken bones, little fractures. You know what I mean? Sure. All that's cool, baby.
Or some trash talking. Or just simply trash talking.
Anything, Savage, it's all welcome. Headbands on deck.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, buddy.
All right.
Hey, Will Lee, congrats too, dog.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Man, we told you on 3HL yesterday, but now I get to talk to you. So congratulations, Will Lee.
I appreciate it.
Was you nervous, Will Lee?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was even more nervous than I am to call the Tennessee game next Wednesday against Norfolk State. It was that was an even bigger level of, or Tuesday. I should probably know what day that game is.
What you doing? Play, Will Lee?
I am, yes sir.
All right.
Yes sir.
Okay.
Hey, he coming for your spot, Sam.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
And I have been taught by my now fiance, who went to college in the state of Virginia, James Madison. It is Norfolk State, not Norfolk. Oh. There is no L. It is Norfolk, is how you say it.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway, I'm already learning.
Hey, Savage, all he looking for is you put in a good word with your folks at SEC Network. He's like, he's doing the dirty work. He ain't going to say it. Look, I'm going to say it, all right? Just leave the back door open is all he's saying.
Hey, man, the door's always open, baby. You got to know what you know.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Thank you, Slay. All right. There's Ron Slay with us here this morning.
I like when Will get a little flustered right there.
It's flustered.
Hey, I'm here for it. Look, and speak it into fruition. Well, that's all I'm saying, man. If they don't ever know, then if you don't ever tell them, they'll never know.
That's fair. That's fair. Looking forward to it. Wrapping up the show, coming up next, Toyota keys to the game for Titans and Jags, plus our picks after this. Wrapping up the show and wrapping up another week on RKW with Toyota Keys to the Game. Brought to you by your Middle Tennessee Toyota dealers, where you'll find more all-wheel drive and electrified hybrid vehicles than anywhere else. Come in for a test drive today. Toyota, let's go places. Titans and Jags Keys, guys. Let's hear them.
Man, first things first, control what you can control. And that's just two things to me. The turnovers as far as the quarterback play and fumbles, and the run defense. Those two things, top of the list. Control what you can control.
Yeah, I would say, for this defense to get back on track, to give the offense a chance. I know that sounds silly to say because we're usually saying the opposite in this situation, but, the times that Mason has been the quarterback this season, it's almost like the defense has had poor performances or special teams has dumped the bed. So I will say this, defense, do your thing, bounce back from an awful run performance, and they do have something good going for it. They can register their 6th consecutive game with at least one INT. So win the turnover battle is very much so the streak that you can continue. And also with the offense, continue to get down to the red zone and be able to produce, because they've been able to do that lately. They need to get down there more, though.
No doubt.
Stop the run. 3 words. A lot simpler than it sounds, or a lot simpler than it actually is. But Tank Bigsby's pretty good. ETN, pretty good. Would love to slow down the run.
For sure.
On Sunday in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's going to be crucial. It's going to be a simple game this time of the year. I mean,
absolutely.
We're almost at the point
Simple is
of,
all I can take right now.
Yeah, it is.
Make it simple.
We're almost at the point of like camp-like football for teams that are bad. All right, let's see what this guy can do this.
Feels like preseason in some ways.
It does, doesn't it,
right?
man? Like, it means something, but it doesn't really. As far as like playoffs and future go, it's for guys that are out to prove themselves.
If I were to make this about me, and I'm not going to do that, but if I was to make this about me, I would say we still have fantasy football, though, involved with these games, unlike preseason. And if I was to brag, I would tell you now that I am in 2 fantasy football championships this weekend. But I'm not going to do that because I'm a bigger person. So I'm not going to mention that I'm probably going to win 2 fantasy football championships this weekend because I'm such a good person. I'm not going to do that to you guys in the audience because I know none of you care.
Okay, well, while Will will not talk about himself, I will talk about myself.
Okay.
I am in a fantasy dynasty league, which means we have 32 players, and it's best ball, so we don't have to set a lineup. But in this league, if you win back-to-back championships, you win the rollover pot. I have been in this league for 12 years. The rollover pot is almost to $2,000.
Oh, damn.
If I win this weekend, I will win the winning and $2,000. So what I need from the Titans this weekend, Tank Bigsby does not get anything. No, do not give him the Jonathan Taylor treatment.
Doesn't get another yard.
Please do not let this dude have a 20-point game because I will not have a fun week of work the next week knowing that I am not $2,000 richer.
Okay.
So please, I'm begging you. Y'all ain't got to do nothing all year. Just don't let Tank Bigsby have a long-ass touchdown. Because if he does, I'm going to be mad as hell on Monday, and it's going to be all y'all's fault.
Did you get that, Titans? Are you listening? I want to brag, too, because I actually have not made the championship this year, and I actually still owe my dues. So there we go.
That's bragging? Okay. Usually, we got to always pay ours before the season starts.
Mine's to my brother, so no, I don't. He can beg me till I give it to him.
Add it to the tab.
And he asked me on the cruise. I said, wait till my next paycheck,
Yeah,
bro.
I got you. I'll give you the money. And that's the best when you're already out of the playoffs. You're not going to win squat anyway. It's like, yeah, you'll get your money,
Right.
dude. This is what you get for
Tell him to
trusting
bring
me.
my money.
Yeah, right.
So who do you need to play well?
I already got a good game out of Lamar and Mark Andrews. I need Amon-Ra to do well. I need... Just go ahead and tell me. Shut up. I need everyone that was hurt previously to be magically healed by the miracle of Christmas. J.K. Dobbins, John K. James Conner, Trey McBride. Zach Ertz, if you have been hurt, show up.
You know what? I think
Thank
Ertz
you.
get it because Sirianni apologized.
Oh.
He apologized publicly.
He did apologize.
So that means, you know what that means? Pay him off.
Go ahead, get that boy a touchdown.
Boy, Teddy.
Feed that boy. And Baker Mayfield, don't throw a... Come on, man. Can you be Baker? Can you be cool Baker, not like lame Uncle Baker? I need you to be cool Baker this weekend. And that's why I didn't bet on him. Because every time I bet on them, Baker decides he wants to have a stinker. So I didn't bet on Baker. And I'm just saying, Bird is broke. I need the money. I spent all my money on Christmas. I need some money.
And because he's got a ring to buy here soon. So you got to be.
That's going to be a new drinking game.
I think Kayla thinks more about Bert getting engaged than Bert does.
I'm so excited. I am on the side of Cheyenne.
We've met Cheyenne. Cheyenne,
I know.
She's his sugar mama anyway. If anything, buy your own ring, Cheyenne.
I'd rather deal with Kayla than deal with Cheyenne's parents, who all weekend told me about the twin girls we're going to have.
Yeah, I'm not going to that. Yeah, I'm not going to that level.
What do the twin girls do?
I guess they go come out. I was like, can we have Phil and Lil twins?
Yeah.
Like, can I get one boy? And they was like, no, you getting two girls. My great grandma was a set of blonde
I've heard that
twins,
too.
and y'all are having twins, and we gonna spoil them two girls. I said, nah. One of them gonna wrestle. One of them gonna be a badass. The other one y'all can have. Leave me with one of them.
The one of them spitting tobacco.
Titans Jags picks. Let's hear them.
Titans Jags pick. I've rode the train for a while with thinking they was gonna pull it off. I'm rolling with what's his name, McCorkle, this weekend in the Jags.
McCorkle Jones.
McCorkle Jones.
Give me a score.
Score? It's gonna be a run game, and Tank Bigsby gets nothing. Okay.
Yeah. You don't like it.
I got the Jags. Man. 17.
You act like I haven't asked you this.
What are you doing, 6 to 3?
I'm trying to think about how bad it is. 17-6.
Okay.
Oh, God.
6 points against the Jags. That would be disgusting.
They only
again.
scored 6 points last time.
That is true.
I think that they're going to change that around.
17-6.
I did not bet against or bet for the Titans last week. I'll do it this week. It's Christmas. 24-17. Give me the Titans.
Okay.
21-20 Jags.
Ooh.
There's my pick.
All right.
Well, we only have one more of those picks to make when the Oilers take on the Texans next week.
And it depends on if their backups play. Well, maybe it doesn't.
I actually don't think they will now. I mean, after they scored 2 points in their next to last game.
I kind of feel like that too. You can't just.
What's that? Yeah, that was their next to last game.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wednesday game is messing with me. And clearly messed also with the Houston Texans.
Yeah,
they scored 2 points.
And them Steelers, damn.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I got nothing. I
didn't even mean it. I feel bad doing that. You're right.
Well, anyway, right under the buzzer of the week, Steve writes in on YouTube and says, "Tank, baby, tank. We need to lose this weekend to move up for a draft pick, as has been the plan all season." So I guess he got a new tinfoil hat for Christmas to still put on to argue that the Titans have been tanking all year, which is still one of the dumbest opinions I've seen in our FNN Bank chat all season. But we appreciate you always tuning in. Even if you do have bad takes, that's okay. We accept it. I have bad takes all the time, so I get it.
Too.
We all have our own bad takes. Part of it.
Back at it Monday morning. Enjoy the football. Enjoy bowl games. Go watch a bowl game. Go have some fun watching American tackle football. You're gonna sit in June and think, "God, I wish there was football on right now."
So true.
If you are that person and you're also complaining, "There's too many bowl games," I need you to look in the mirror and evaluate why you're a bad person. I just need you to do that for me. I need you to do it for me as quickly as possible. Post haste. Those are my words of wisdom. Here's Ramon's Foster.
Y'all know how we ended at the end of the week, man. Call somebody you ain't talked to in a while. Buy somebody a random drink, man. Have a random conversation. Hug somebody. Apologize to somebody, man. But at all costs, make it back to us on Monday. But please remember, your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.